Here we are at Kansas Speedway for the final round of the Killer 8 for the Raven Grafixx Contender Series. It all comes down to this: 6 drivers left to try and get into those final 4 spots for the Thunderdome 200 in Fontana next week. Join us here on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live for all the coverage of the second to last round of the championship here. Don't go anywhere, we'll be back shortly. Welcome everyone to RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live for the second to last round of the Raven Grafixx Contender Series here for the Old Glory 200 at Kansas Speedway, presented by IFX. And at the moment, all the drivers are in qualifying, trying to get that pole position and get those qualifying points, but the chase is heating up. There's 6 spots left, 2 spots left, with 6 drivers trying to take those final 2 spots. I am Jake Blackwell in the commentary booth. Randy Chithis has decided to give me the reins of the commentary booth and has gone to the director's chair, while Hugo goes on a fun little holiday to do the Pro Series race that will be coming up shortly as well. So we are here, Gramuglia right now on the provisional pole. This qualifying session has been very interesting. I know me and Randy have been talking about that off stream, that it's Gramuglia on the pole and everyone's trying to upset all these chase guys who are trying to get as many points as possible. And as we move to that chase, Sir Campbell is 4 points above the cutoff line right now in that number 5 truck, with Britt, sorry, in the 4, I'll get it, is 0 points out. He is that cutoff line.
Come on, Jake, if I can push the buttons, you can do this.
Love, Lemons, and Keith are the ones on the outside of the chase looking in, and pretty much they are on the outer too much, I'd say, to try and get in on points. James Torrey needs a really strong qualifying effort to even get there. Size Love is sitting there as well. Right now in 9th in qualifying, he's 23 points on the outside. Lemons 26 with Brent Keith as well, 31 points on the outer. So they're all looking to try and get that win to lock themselves in. Townsend and Stewart already locked into that chase, so they will have no issues tonight. They can sort of float around and see what they're doing. And at the moment, Stewart in 3rd, Townsend in 5th. They're trying to help relative people in that sort of area of the chase to get up there. And Stewart right now trying to help Torrey, who is sitting in P4 in qualifying, trying to give him as many points as possible. He's the closest one to try and knock out Britt or Campbell to get in there, so he's sort of looking pretty good at the moment.
Yeah, this chase is really heating up, Jake. And, I mean, the thing that's interesting for me right now, especially about this run here at Kansas, is qualifying. Frank Gramuglia on pole right now. That's the first time we've seen him way up there in terms of in this qualifying. We obviously saw that win at Talladega, but we haven't seen him run this strong in quali, I don't think, ever.
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of the areas where we haven't actually seen him running this strong as a solo run. He was first in practice and first in quali, so he's got something hooked up here at Kansas Speedway. And I didn't even realize you were going to be talking, Randy. I thought you were going to be a Hugo and sit in the background. And
nope, I'm going to be useful unlike Hugo.
So So that just threw me off guard then, because I didn't realize you were going to talk. I was going to take a break for a second and then come back in. But so yeah, it's really going to make an interesting one with Gramuglia out on pole, Tim Marlowe, and then Stewart and Townsend sort of taking points away from everyone. I know they mentioned they wouldn't be doing that, but at the moment it looks like they're trying to sort of give their other people, like we're saying, I think Townsend right now at the moment, he's just on the back straight away, but Stewart's helping Tory, so I think that's where they're playing at the moment, just trying to help other people get in that chase.
Well, I mean, and Tory is obviously, he's been one of those guys that, even though you have that X-Whip racing, sort of mindset, you got to remember that Tory was getting help from Brad Neer at Talladega when Doyle Lawrence was down there pushing Bobby Stewart, trying to get him to win at Dega as well. So these X-Whip racing guys, and like Bobby said, they're really not a quote-unquote team anymore, but they're still working together, and it's not surprising to me at all to see that 73 out there helping that 2 along with the draft as they go into 1 and 2 here at Kansas. And here at Kansas, look at this, Jake, right up against the wall all the way around.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that. And we've seen them in qualifying as well. The first sort of part of qualifying, they all came out in a massive pack. I think it was all 16 trucks all together trying to make the most of that draft. And I think that's going to be a key tonight, especially for those chase contenders. I think we're going to be so locked together for the entire 200 miles here at Kansas. It's really going to make it interesting. One little mistake and a chase contender could get caught up to it. I think it's really going to have that intensity level that we sort of seen at Talladega, Randy, but not as much as I think we were expecting there, but I think it's going to go to that next level here today.
Yeah, this is going to be an intense race, I think. It's the final race of your Killer 8 to get yourself into the Final 4 for that race here at Fontana next weekend. So, excuse me, next Wednesday. There's going to be people being very, very aggressive. And, really there's no point if you're Bobby Stewart, if you're Travis Townsend, to really try to cannibalize points, just because once you go into Fontana, you all have the same amount of points anyways. There's no bonus points on the line at all. So if you're already in, there's really no point in trying to take points away. Just really, you can maybe take a spot away from someone you otherwise don't want to race at California. But beyond that, I think it's really going to be a hard fight between those other 6 drivers who need to get themselves into the chase.
Yeah, I definitely think that's going to be the case. Those 6 that are sort of in the chase are going to be all fighting with each other at the moment. And it's just super close when you look at it. Campbell only being 4 points above of Chris J. Britt at the moment. They're in that chase. They're just above the cutoff line. But when you think of it, they could still change. And if one of them gets a victory tonight, or if someone on the outer gets in, only one of them's going to make it through. So we're going to have to watch that battle closely as well during the course of the night. But qualifying has wrapped itself up here at Kansas, and it looks like Frank Gramuglia has got his first pole of the season at the second to last round of the championship. So I think we will start to run through that grid now while they start to form up on the front row. So Gramuglia on the front row with Tim Marlowe on the outside. Bobby Stewart in third with Travis Townsend rounding out row 2. James Torrey, the first of our big chase contenders on the outside looking in with Doc Stout as well alongside for row 3. Jason Sizlove in P7 with Chris J. Britt on row 8 in P8. William Tony
and of course Campbell I get the director chair and the grid 10. Graphic isn't working. Thanks, Hugo.
Brent Keith and Damian Plymas on row 6. Burt Wilson, Glenn Jameson 13th and 14th. Doyle Lawrence and Brad Patterson rounding out the 16 trucks who have done qualifying, with Doug Lemons and Brad Neer not setting a lap. And Lemons I don't appear to see in the race at the moment, neither with Brad Neer. So that's not going to help Lemons. I'd say he's definitely not going to make this one, and that's going to put him to the outside of that final round. So the person we spoke about all season who we thought could have a chance at trying to take that championship from Travis Townsend, who was super strong, especially at these 1.5 miles, and Lemons looks like he is not able to race with us, so hopefully everything's alright in his camp tonight. So unfortunate for that, but that brings us down to just 3 drivers looking on the outside to make it in, which will make it even more interesting as the trucks start to grid up.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one here, as I've tried everything I can to try to make the grid graphic work, and then it just refuses. So we're getting a look at the actual grid, though, as they sit on pit lane, and a beautiful look at that new roof safety car, which I still think is a very good choice. I know a lot of people don't, but they're just simply wrong.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was actually behind it in one of the Carb Cup races as well in week 13, and Daytona when I actually won that one, so I'll take that little pride to myself. But yeah, it's interesting just seeing it, but I think it's a good addition. It's good to change it up a little bit every now and then. Like you said, I think it's the third or fourth iteration we've had of the iRacing safety car, and it's good to see a new one out there today as the trucks roll off as they go through 1 and 2 at the moment. Gramuglia in that 13 truck with that 28 of Tim Marlowe, who could have been in the chase, sort of a would have been, should have been, but that race at Richmond really turned everything up on its head in terms of the chase, and he didn't make it through due to a post-race penalty. And then behind them, you got the two that are locked into next week, Bobby Stewart and Travis Townsend. I think that's going to be an interesting one. Who do you think's going to spoil the show, Randy?
Frank.
Ooh, he's gone straight for Frank Gramuglia. He's going to put it on him. Let's see if Frank can actually get that win. He got one win already this season. That was at Talladega. Could get another one here tonight, and it's at a cookie cutter, so no luck involved. Wouldn't really say there's luck involved at Talladega, but sometimes there is, as the trucks will come through 3 and 4. That pace car will make that hard left turn down onto pit road. There he goes in that brand new rough, and Gramuglia has already gone. Green flag here for the 200-mile race here at Kansas.
Good clean start so far from these guys. Frank's off to a good start, and Tim Marlowe getting in line just behind as they go into 1 and 2 in second place. Townsend able to cut down in front for third.
Yeah, good start there from Gramuglia, obviously showing that pace of that truck straight away from the get-go. He's got a good little gap over the 28, and Marlowe is getting harassed from his teammate Travis Townsend, already going down the back straightaway. Just trying to see what they've got at the moment. Stewart running that high line already, and we're expecting that to be sort of the position where we're going to see a lot of these trucks throughout the race running up near that wall, and he's already started to make that move up there as Tory has a look on Doc Stout in P number 5.
Not a surprise for me at all to see Tory already acting racy here, trying to get himself up into that 5th position. Now looking on the inside of his ex-teammate of Bobby Stewart in that 73 as they go down this back straightaway here in the corners number 3 and 4. That 2 machine looking to the inside of the 73. This is going to be the first time all night that we're going to see how that low line compares to the high line, and it seems to be working pretty well thus far.
Yeah, it seems like he's got the good run coming out of 3 and 4. He's going to get the run going into turn 1. I think he's going to get that inside line nice and comfortably, but that high side looking nice and sticky at the moment for that 73 truck. He's still keeping up the pace. He's trying to get it on the exit, not going to happen, so he's lost that spot to the 2 of Tory. And there's another one, Chris J. Britt, also trying to get himself into this chase. He is that last one in points at the moment, and he is looking very racy down to the inside. Already looks like he has a nose on the inside of the 2, and he does, so he's going to go to the inside, going to use all that apron, can run as far down there as you really want, or dare, coming back up onto the tri-oval. He's going to get it done, going through turn number 1 and 2 as well.
Yeah, still fighting hard up and down here, and that number 2 machine is going to lose that spot to the 4 of Chris J. Britt as they come off corner number 2. So well done, well executed pass by that 4 machine. And, you know, talk about Chris Britt and the run he's had in the later parts of this championship so far, Jake. He's been, you know, I wouldn't say dominant. That wouldn't be the right word to use, but the glove box group as a whole certainly has been, and he's been one of the main reasons they have been as strong as they have been.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the main reasons. As I look back, Brent Keith is in a whole world of trouble. He's got Brad Patterson just moved in. They were 3 wide down the front straightaway. Stout has dropped a long way back from where he qualified. He's all the way down in P number 12 at the moment. Plymesser, and I think that is Glenn Jameson and Burt Wilson as well. They were nearly 3 wide going down that front straightaway. They've sort of calmed themselves down now going into 3 and 4, but they were fanning out quite big. So Brent Keith may not want to be amongst that too long as he wants to try and work his way up. But everyone else in front of him, pretty much single file at the moment. No one sort of challenging anyone in terms of passing, and just sort of sitting there in the tow. And Gramuglia sort of held his own out in front.
Yeah, that's the first time we've seen this from Frank, which is, I mean, and it's really, really good to see that Frank getting out there, having this strong run. He was one of your early chase contenders after getting that win at Talladega. He got knocked out after the first round of 12. Didn't make it into the round of 8, of course, but to see him out there now running as strong as he is, maybe come away with a race win on a track like this, I think Frank Gramuglia would be more than happy if he could make something like that happen.
Yeah, it'll give him a good boost of confidence as well heading into next season, and that's what you want. You want to start off or finish this season. You got himself into the chase. That's sort of one tick I'd say that you'd want to do. you got knocked out early, but to get a win on something like a cookie cutter at Kansas, especially with the way these trucks in this series are so competitive, definitely would be one of those little confidence boosters heading into next year. And at the moment he's still holding his own, while Townsend and Marlowe go at it for P2 at the moment. So the 83 truck on the inside, he just can't get the run as much as he'd like coming off the corner to maybe maximise his speed, and the 28 just holding his own on the high side. And right behind him, that 4, Chris J. Britt. Will he make it 3 wide in the middle? He's not. He's going to sit there and float behind. Looks like the 3 and 4, it looks like the low line is a little bit better than the high side, but 1 and 2 is where you want to be on the high side.
Yeah, you're already seeing these different points on the racetrack start to get stronger. Remember, we saw something similar happen at Texas, Jake. I remember that Texas race. It started out as actually a 4 machine goes down to the low line, and is that going to be 3 wide? They come off of corner number 2 close, but he gets under that 83 machine coming off of 2, going into 3 and 4, able to hold on to it down there. Now he sets his sights on the 28. That's Townsend's teammate of Marlowe out in front. Is he going to be able to get to the inside as they go into 1? That 4 machine didn't qualify well, but it is mighty fast.
Yeah, it's got a good race truck and a good race package underneath him at the moment. So Chris J. Britt looks like he's trying to do everything he can to get as many points as possible to make sure he is safe. And at the moment he's working hard with that 83 truck. I thought the 83 looked not as comfortable on the high side through 3 and 4 as his teammate the last time round, but at the moment it looks pretty solid up there, and he's running quite consistent. We've seen how much that 83 truck can get squirrely on the outside. He's going to make a move. That was a little mistake there from Marlowe. I think he got a little bit loose on the exit. That's going to hurt his momentum, and up goes the 83 truck into P2.
Very well done by the 83 of Townsend to be able to get that spot taken away on his teammate of the 28 of Tim Marlowe. And Marlowe is one of those guys that unfortunately actually lost his chase contention due to a penalty from Richmond. However, I say that the 83 of Townsend now attacking the 13 of Grumuglia, his teammate, as they come off of corner number 2. And that's actually interesting to note. This is the first time I think all season, Jake, we've seen Old Fart Sim Racing run 1, 2, 3 all season long. Here they go at Kansas. And now Townsend trying to get that spot away from his teammate of Grumuglia as they go into 1 and 2.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to get that on the high side. I think Grumuglia is definitely unsure as to where he wants to put his truck at the moment. But yeah, those Old Fart Sim Racing trucks, it's usually been Marlowe and Townsend out in front. And to see Grumuglia sort of hanging with him now, doing an awesome job, put it on the pole as well, and had the quickest truck in practice. So he's definitely got a truck underneath him that he may be able to do something with. But at the moment, this is that middle of the phase. I think we talk about that a lot often when it comes to Townsend and Marlowe. That middle phase is where those trucks start to pull away, and at the moment they've already started to pull a gap. And when you think of it, they were just with Chris J. Britt in that 4. They've already put about a second on him.
Those Old Fart Sim Racing trucks, Jake, are absolutely hooked up now. We're watching them go into corners number 3 and 4.
Oh,
that
Tory
around.
Sides Love got into the back of him, and there's Brad Patterson as well. Hit him very hard, and then Wilson got him. I think the entire Evolution Motorsports team just destroyed James Tory's truck.
Replay up on your screens now.
Yeah, Tory got loose. Sides Love got the back of him just a little bit. Then Patterson hit him as he spun around in the 2, and then Wilson, and then Glenn Jameson. So the entire Evolution Motorsports trucks all got a bit of damage from that, and James Tory's truck looks very second-hand. I think that one's done. I think he's got a lot of engine damage. Glenn Jameson as well has got engine problems in that truck. So a lot of trucks got a little bit of beaten up and damage. I think Sizlove has a little bit of damage as well. He got the wall, the outside wall, when he tried to avoid him in the middle of 3 and 4. But it was just a simple spin. We've seen a little bit of that in the early practice session. A couple of trucks just getting loose and losing it all on their own. And there's the first one to do that, and that was Tory trying to fight for that championship. It looks like he's just going to have to try and get as much as he can repaired. But that truck has definitely smoking.
Yeah, and sorry to everyone, I couldn't quite get that replay to work. I'll yell at Hugo for not teaching me how to use ATVO before I became a director, but definitely unfortunate for Tory to, have that much damage on his truck early on.
Yeah, definitely unfortunate to have all that amount of damage already, and I don't think he's going to be able to get as much of it repaired as I think he'd like. He's going to be out for a while, and Patterson got a good-sized chunk of that as well. So all those Evolution Motorsports trucks all getting a little piece of that. I don't think that's going to help any of their causes. They've had such a strong finish to this season, I'd say. And at the moment, that's not going to help their chances. And Travis Townsend, the first one off pit road, Marlowe, and then Grumuglia, I think got beaten by Britt, did he? Yes, he did. So Britt now moves himself up into P3, but besides that, we're under our first caution tonight.
Yeah, good move by Britt to get himself up into third. And still, Frank Gramuglia having a good, strong run. Doyle Lawrence, of course, taking that strategy call to stay out front. And what do you think about that, Jake? Do you think that's a good call, a bad call? How do you feel?
I think it's a good call. You do what you can, you know what I mean? He's not going to think, just sit around here.
JK, he's coming down pit lane.
Up. And as I say that, no. So I know it was a good choice. It's early on in this race. You got to think it's 133 laps here. We're only on lap 15, just about to complete that one. It's a good call. See what you can sort of do on the older tires. You got to remember it's a big draft sort of a track here at Kansas, a big pack that you're going to be running in. So you could get away with it and see what you can do, especially on the 15-lap old tires, and it may be something you'd want to put to a teammate later on, even though Lawrence is by himself. But he's obviously still one of those expert racing guys that may be able to help someone there in terms of just running on the tires. I did it early on, and this is how it was. So it's sort of something that you could have done. He came down, got all 4 tires. He's going to put himself at the back of the pack, and that will give Townsend back the lead.
And well done there by Townsend to get himself out in front so early. I mean, didn't qualify all that great there, but, I mean, still getting himself out in front relatively quickly, relatively early. What do you think? Do you think that 83 is going to be able to stay up there, or do you think Chris Britt is looking a little too strong at the moment?
I think Britt's stronger on the short runs. I think we've seen that quite often from that 4 truck, and he's just struggling a little bit of that mid-speed pace, mid-run pace at the moment, but we'll see on this restart how he goes with those 3 Ultimate Sim racing trucks.
Shall we ride on board with Britt?
Oh, we should ride on board with him on this restart as the trucks get ready, waiting on Townsend's go. And it looks like we are going. The green flag is out. Sort of left it a little bit later there. And he's going to get a good jump. He's going to move straight up and try and pick up his teammate. But Chris J. Britt's going to spoil that putty and jump up into P2. Oh, a little bit of contact behind. Sorry,
Britt.
The 2 old fart sim racing trucks got together of Gramuglia and Tim Marlowe. And that has literally bunched up the rest of the pack. I think that's Tony. Doesn't know where he's going in that 87 truck behind Stout. Size Love on the inside. Sorry about that, Randy, but that was chaotic on the restart, more than it should have been.
That's okay. I'm trying to get that replay working, and it still just doesn't want to, so sorry about that, folks. But good, exciting restart here, and let's watch this battle up front for him as that 4 of Chris Britt tries to reel in that 83 at Townsend.
He's trying all he can to get that P1 away from the 83 of Townsend, and Campbell behind him. He's trying everything he can to stick with him as well, and Campbell and Britt, they're the 2 that are on the inside of the chase at the moment. They're going to be trying everything they can to keep their points in their position, but wouldn't they love to get that win to sort of make sure they seal themselves in? And I think that's going to be an interesting battle between these 2. Obviously, they're teammates from Godbox Racing. They will want to both get themselves in that chase, but you never know if something does happen. I think one of them may just get that win and steal it from another one if something happens, but we'll see how they play this one out. Still a long way to go, and at the moment they're looking comfortable in 2nd and 3rd. Yeah, Stewart's looking strong. Stewart looks strong, and he's definitely in one of those positions of trying to get that position done right now. And he's had a strong end to this season, especially since the chase has started. So we'll see what he can do in terms of this 44 truck with Jason Sizlum in front of him. That's Gramuglia on the inside. He's having a look and trying to fight his way back after that little mistake with his teammates. So, and as we just hear, Randy has had his mic muted that entire time.
Or didn't hear, I think was the key word. But let's keep an eye on this battle. The 13 of Frank Gramuglia is getting into it inside of the 73 of Bobby Stewart and trying to get inside his size left as well as they go into 1 and 2. I don't think he's quite going to get to the inside of the 44, but actually he might just. And he's going to make something of it, Jake. That 13 going to get the run that he needs to throw it up the inside into 3 and 4. I think he's being a little too cautious on the exit, Frank. Being a little too nice, leaving him too much room. He's not getting the run off the corner he needs.
Yeah, he's just not getting the run that he wants to get off that corner, and that 73 truck still got himself up there, that Bobby Stewart. running strong always in this chase contention in front of him. Marlowe was caught the back of Campbell, so he's starting to work on the back of that number 5 truck, seeing what he can do. They're both running that high line though, so it's really making it for an interesting battle out in front of these 3 trucks at the moment. And Sizlov and I think Bobby Stewart's actually got a better run than the 13 Gramuglia, and he's going to drop back behind them. So the 13 truck was there on the inside, tried to get the run, couldn't get it done, so he's going to have to sit in behind, but we'll move to that battle in front of him, as actually, as I say, that Bobby Stewart looks to the inside of the 44. Looks like he's going to get a good run going down the tri-oval, and he could get a good job going into 1 and 2. He's going to get it done.
Yeah, very well done pass there by the 73 of Bobby Stewart as we ride, looking behind of the number 44, Jason Sizlov, looking at that the 13 of Frank Gramuglia as they go into 3 and 4. And look, everyone is using this high line in 3 and 4, Jake. There is a truck a few trucks back that I think is running a little bit lower on the racetrack, but you're not seeing very many trucks going to that low line, especially through 3 and 4.
Yeah, everyone's sort of running a middle to high groove in 3 and 4. It's a little bit different in 1 and 2. You got that real high line and then the real low line. So just people trying to feel out what this track's got for them today. And this pack's really formed up. So Sizlov held on from that position from Stewart. He didn't completely get the pass fully done there. That high line was able to keep the 44 in touch. And 13th Gramuglia looking to the inside, and behind them William Tony is just sort of ranged up on the back in the 87 truck. New livery for that truck for tonight, I'd say. Not the usual red and black that we're used to. It looks like it's grey and white at the moment. But yeah, everyone else in this pack just fighting hard. 2 people in the chase, 1 already locked in. The rest of them just fighting for pride.
And you can't really blame them for that. You want to get up there and you want to shake up what those chase contenders are doing. Let's go back up to that 2nd place fight, though. Third place. Ryan Campbell and Tim Marlowe are very, very close. And as I say that, the 28 of Marlowe is on the outside as they come across the stripe. Here is actually, Marlowe's going to have the nose as they come across the line. Is he going to be able to hold on to that high line as they go into 1 and 2? He has the spot, and that 5 is going to have to cycle in behind. So move Tim Marlowe up into that 3rd spot.
Yeah, good run there from Marlowe to get that job done, and it's actually put Campbell in a little bit of situation here. He's got Sizlov right on the back of him. He's lost all his momentum from running that low line. Sizlov's there, Stewart's there on the inside, going to have another look on that 44 coming off of turn 4. Gramuglia got a little bit loose in the background. There's William Tony having a look. I think Sizlov didn't have the nose in front of Stewart. Stewart just got it done. Is he going to move himself up? No, he's going to run that low line. He could have put his 73 truck right up in front of the 44. Is he going to do it off the corner? He knows the run's coming, and here comes that 44 on that high side. He's going to get the run and made that pass back on that 73.
Good hard fight here between the 73 and the 44 for what is going to be the last spot of your top 5, and these guys are actually done a very good job to reel in that 5 of Ryan Campbell as well. So this is turning into a 5-truck scrap here for basically 4th to 8th on the racetrack. A lot of pride here just for the few guys that aren't in the chase, but a lot to win and a lot to lose for these guys that are.
Marlowe in the fence. Marlowe made a mistake. He got the outside wall, so that's what happens when you run that high line. It's not the first time we've seen Marlowe clip the fence, and running that high side, he got the wall and he lost all momentum, and he's dropped to the back of this massive pack. So he's let 5 trucks through, and when you're in this sort of a battle, you don't really want to see that. When you make a mistake, you maybe see 1 or 2 trucks come by. When you see an entire pack of 5 trucks come by, you think, now I've got to try and work my way back through then. How am I going to get this done? It really puts him on the back foot now.
Yeah, it really does. I'm trying to get that replay up on screen, but it just doesn't want to play nice with me. So definitely unfortunate there for Marlowe. Important to note, though, that he's not a chase contender. So as much as that's definitely going to hurt him, it's not going to hurt him to the point in terms of a championship. His championship hopes have already been dashed. He's already going to the inside now of who is that? I believe that's William Tony. Move him up so move Marlowe up in front of that 87, back into that 7 spot. Now he needs to get into that big scrap that's happening out in front of him, though, and it's going to be really difficult for him to dice his way through those cars.
Yeah, this is sort of a big battle pack at the moment. 3 of them chase contenders as well. They're all trying to fight as hard as they can to get as many points on each other as possible. Stewart doesn't need to battle these guys as much as he sort of wants to. He's already locked into that chase, but he has nothing to lose. He may as well try and mix it up a little bit. So Sizlov in front of him, and that's Gramuglia on the apron. He got loose. Did he save it? The 13 truck's going to slide back up. He doesn't get in the 87. He's going to spin through 1 and 2. He saved it, and around he goes.
Bit of Lightning McQueen stuff there, and that's going to bring out a yellow.
Yeah, that's a second yellow, so Gramuglia around I was just about to say, the rest of the field was pretty much all spread out, besides this massive battle pack that we had. So Gramuglia, yeah, bringing out our second caution of the night, running on that apron. So
I made the replays work!
And Randy is happy he's got the replays working right now. So Townsend is going to work his way up to catch that pace car, and I think that's another 15, 16 on that run, so we'll get another a round of pit stops here. And it was interesting to note, Townsend and Britt pretty much separated themselves from the rest of the field, even though they were fighting really hard, but it looks like they have the pace to sort of battle with themselves at the moment. But the 3-second gap between Townsend and Britt, that's still a massive gap for Britt to try and make up.
That was a really weird spin, though, there by the 13 as he was coming up on the front straightaway. I mean, he didn't really hit anything. He was just on the apron on the front straight, and that back end of that 13 just came around. You know, it's like Frank was just a passenger there. Very, very nasty spin.
Yeah, he was lucky not to hit anything or anyone. He did a good job keeping it off the wall and everyone else that was coming by. So he did a good job, and yeah, just looped it at the end. It was really weird. He was just going through the tri-oval. I think he's done that numerous times tonight, and it's just lost it a little bit. Maybe got a little bit too much of where he was on that racetrack on that tri-oval. Got to remember there could be some marbles or something down there that wasn't already there before. So everyone coming down pit road, gonna do their second round of pit stops. Townsend was the leader onto pit road. Britt as well. No two-tire callers at the moment. We'll see who will win themselves off pit road. Looks like Campbell has beaten Britt, and I think Townsend's going to beat both of them. So move Campbell up into P2. He's going to be fighting on that outside of Townsend, and Britt's going to drop all the way back to P3 with I think that's Stewart behind him as well. Yeah,
good pit stop there by Townsend, and being able to retain that lead. And it's going to be interesting to see if Townsend can be, can Townsend do what Townsend does. I think that even though he's already going into Fontana, I think that the 83 needs to set a precedent here, Jake, of being dominant, because Travis hasn't been as strong in the second half of the season as he was in the first, or maybe even this final third of the season. He hasn't been as strong as he was in the first 2/3. He's not been that dominant force that we see week in and week out, just winning essentially every single race. So I think that 83 needs to set a precedent for the rest of the field right here, come out, have one of those dominating performances, and carry that momentum into the final race at Fontana.
Yeah, I really think that's the case, and I think it's a good point to bring up, Randy. He hasn't really had.
Can I just say,
run in this chase.
Hugo's ticker has the pace car on it.
There we go. The rough is now P1 at the moment on the racetrack. Has led, I think, 4 laps at the moment.
Thank you, base Hugo.
For Townsend at the moment, yeah, he hasn't really had that strong of a chase at the moment, I'd say. Obviously, he got the win at Watkins Glen, which was, I think, the track that he wasn't expecting to get that win at, but he put a lot of effort.
I think we were expecting Campbell or Lemons to come away with the win there.
We were expecting one of those road course ringers that we've seen at Motorsport to be able to get that one done. Nia was pretty strong as well, but wasn't part of the chase. But yeah, it's just interesting that Townsend really hasn't had a strong chase. Like the rest of the season, he had like 6 or 7 wins coming into the chase, so pretty much the first round was irrelevant for him. He had so many bonus points, he could sort of cruise through that. And then it was just a struggle, like the Killer 8. The first part of the chase, the Dirty Dozen, really wasn't that strong. He was lucky he had all those bonus points because he may not have been able to make it. Then the Killer 8 obviously got that win, and then last week just floated around. So it's really just come down to the point where he needs to show that he can actually still go out there and win races, I think, for himself and everyone else. So he's done a good job at the moment. He's got it out there, and we know he can win races.
Wait, something real quick. I may have missed this. Did Lemons not make the start?
Lemons didn't make the start. Yeah, I did say that.
Well, I'm busy fumbling with cameras, so I missed that one. So yeah, that'll see him outside the chase, surely.
Yeah, he's already outside the chase at the moment. So when we're bringing that up, Lemons as well, he was 26 points on the outside. Lemons didn't make the start, didn't qualify. So that sort of brings one person out of the chase. Tory has got a lot of damage. His truck is sort of unrepairable, I think, at the moment, unless he's floating around in that 2 truck. Yes, he is. So I think he's just come back out onto pit road, onto the racetrack, sorry. So the 2's back out there, but he is 15 points out. So Sizlov's really the only one that can mess up Campbell and Britt's party at the moment to make the chase. So if Sizlov doesn't really win, he's 23 points on the outer looking in. So it's a big chunk of points he's got to make up to try and get it into that chase. But he can do it. He's just got to get up to the front. But at the moment, these guys under pace. We're going green this time by. We've got Townsend Campbell on the front row. with Britt and Stewart behind him, and then we got Marlowe and Plymesser having a strong run in that 81 truck up in P6. We'll see that pace car turn hard left onto pit road and give the hands to Townsend, and away he goes. Restart here for the second time of the night here at Kansas, and a good jump from Townsend. I think Campbell's going to be fighting his teammate there on the outside.
Yeah, good hard jump there from the 83 to get himself back out in front of all these guys as he's going down now into corner number 1. How is he going to be able to fare on this low line here? Of course, not quite up to speed, so he can run basically everywhere. The 4 and the 5 continue to fight for second and third.
Yeah, good fight there between Campbell and Britt. They're not going to go easy when this championship chase is on the line, and Tam Marlowe on the inside. He's going to try and get that position done on the 5 coming off the turn 4, using that low line to his ability. He's trying to get everything he can, but that high side, just that momentum off the corner is what keeps that 5 truck speed up, and he's able to try and fight back. But the 28 going through 1 and 2, it looks like the low line is where you want to be early on in the stint, and he got it done quite easily. And behind him, Stewart already all over the back of that 5 of Campbell.
And not really surprised there, because you talk about that 83, Jake, and how he's really fallen off here on the second half of the season. Someone who's had a really, really strong second half of the season is that 73 of Bobby Stewart. I think he's only gotten 1 win in that second half stretch, but he's been in position to win a lot more races than he ever was in the first half. I think in the first half of the season he had a chance to win Darlington, and he was definitely one of our favorites going into the super speedway rounds, but besides that, he was never really in contention for a victory. Second half of the season, I think he's been a factor and up there to potentially get a win in almost every single chase round we've had.
Yeah, and when you think of it, he won to get himself into the Killer 8. He won to get himself into the Frenzied 4 next week at Fontana, so he's in just a stretch of the chase. He's won 2 races, and that's more than he won the whole season. So, and he was in more positions in this chase than he was all season, like you said. He has been around, but he just hasn't had the luck or the overall car speed to be able to challenge for victories week in, week out, and now he does. And this is a good little momentum as well boost for Stewart heading into the final week next week at Fontana to maybe get that win. And at the moment, out in front though, Townsend is one of his championship challenges for next week, is out in front, and Chris J. Britt is not letting him go at all in that 4 now. He is all over the back of that 83.
And that's exactly, if you're Chris J. Britt, we need to let it happen. You need to not let that 83 get that momentum going into that final round at Fontana. And, you know, it's just sort of a mental thing, Jake. A lot of people will sort of not really see the importance in something like that and maintaining momentum from one race to another over the course of a championship. But I think it's actually really big that the 83 has had this downward spiral in terms of how his championship, or just, you know, the entire course of this season has gone. He started out so dominant, and then it just sort of, I don't want to say spiraled out of control, but he'd win one race, and then he'd have 1 or 2 kind of mediocre runs, and he'd win another race, and then he'd have a technical issue. And it's, you know, we haven't seen him win, the exception of Watkins Glen, I think in the better part of, what, 5 or 6 weeks?
Yeah, it'd be pretty close to 5 or 6 weeks, and that's the thing. It sort of plays on your mind. Can I win again? We know he's the most winningest driver in this series, but it just puts you in that thing.
But never a championship.
Yeah, never a championship. Got to remember that he hasn't won a championship, and that's the thing that I think he wanted to make sure he got right this season. And at the moment, Britt is making it not easy today to win this race at Kansas. He's still there behind him in that 4 truck, and he's just working the back of that 83. And I think Townsend really needs this victory to get himself in a good contention next week at California. Just to get that momentum, like you said. Some people don't agree with the momentum building and going from week in, week out, winning races and that and all that sort of jazz, but it really does help, especially when you had such a dominating season like Townsend, and then just to drop away like he has. He needed these couple of races to try and build himself up, and that's what he's trying to do at the moment.
And he's doing a good job of it, but I think that 4 of Chris Britt is arguably doing a better job of keeping that number 83 honest as they go over the start-finish line, and back in corner number 1 and 2 is right along with that 83 on that rear tailgate, looking back towards that 4 of Chris J. Britt. Tim Marlowe back there in 3rd, just sort of lurking, and you see the gap from 3rd to 4th as well. We also have a pretty big gaggle of cars. This starts, I think, around 6th place. Yeah, Ryan Campbell's in on this. 4, 5, 6 cars all in it for the same part of the racetrack right now, fighting for the same bit of real estate.
Yeah, Gramuglia was actually having a look in that 13 on Bobby Stewart. He didn't get it done, and now he's dropped back into the clutches of Campbell. Sizlove is there as well, and then you got Tony, Plymesser, and also Doyle Lawrence in that 8 truck. So pretty much from 5th all the way back to 10th. Yeah, it's just a massive pack of trucks, and we've seen this before. It's sort of this group of trucks that are real close on pace together, and around here they're going to be stuck together for the entire race. And I think Sizlove has just got that position done on Campbell, and Campbell's really dropped off in the second part of the race. Maybe made an adjustment that isn't to his liking, because at the moment it's not really helping him. He was up in 3rd, and at the moment he's just starting to drop a little bit back.
We're also hitting that phase of the race, Jake, where the track surface itself is really going to start to change. 47 laps in, and you're going to start making different, you're going to drive the truck differently. You're going to drive it in different places. And that number 8 of Doyle Lawrence is going around the 2 of James Torrey, putting him a lap down. But, just the way this surface is heating up, the low line is going to be different from the high line, which is going to be different from the middle, especially because you see people going to all sorts of different parts of the racetrack. Like in 3 and 4, for example, as we ride on board with the number 8 of Doyle Lawrence, as they go through 3 and 4, everyone's up high except for that number 8 machine. And in fact, through 1 and 2, same story. He's essentially down low, and he's basically one of about 4 trucks on the racetrack that are doing that. Everyone else is running that kind of middle groove up to the high side. And as this run goes, actually just in front of Lawrence, I believe that's William Toney goes to that load line as well. No, it's Plymesser trying to get around William Toney as the fight just evolves. And I think you're going to see trucks kind of fade in and fade out of competitiveness as this track surface really starts to change in its temperature and where people try to figure out to run. And in fact, I mean, it's almost forming up a bit like a dirt race right now, just with the fact that all these people that are running up high are now getting down to the low side. Yeah, they're just putting a truck a lap down, but I think people are realizing that low line might be quicker than initially anticipated.
Yeah, you definitely bring up a good point there. That it is evolving like that dirt track sort of a scenario. Everyone trying to search for their lines, and now everyone's going down to that low line trying to see if that's better than that high side that they've been running early on. And you got to think 50 laps will be in the books after they complete this one, and it's just, they're not even halfway yet. So the track is still evolving, and it will evolve quite a bit before the end of this race. And at the moment, out in front, Townsend has pulled out about a 1.1 second gap over Crochet Britt Marlowe in P3. Bobby Stewart is 4th, and Gramuglia 5th with Sizlove. And then we get to this pack of Campbell, Plymesser, Toney, and Lawrence at the moment. The 2
of everybody else.
Sort of skipped away. Yeah, of everybody else that's on the lead lap, except for Doc Stout. Stout, I think, has got some damage. He's running a little bit off the pace in P11, but we'll see what these guys sort of do. It's a good example of who's running what, and Lawrence gets the position done on William Toney through 1 and 2. Is he going to cut the nose off? He is going down the back straightaway and gets it done cleanly.
Good move there by that 8 machine to get himself in front of the 87, and you see he's still working that low line, and that's definitely interesting to me because he's, like I said, the only person that's done that, and either he thinks that's going to come in or he thinks that high line is going to drop out. What do you think is going to happen first, Jake? Do you think that mid to low line is going to get quicker, or do you think that high line is just going to get too hot and people are going to have to just simply move around to find speed on the racetrack?
I definitely think that top line is going to get too hot with the amount of trucks running up there. You got to think that everyone is pretty much running in that middle to high groove, and when you run a lot of those trucks up there, it's going to make it really treacherous to go up there, especially with that wall right there. If you make a little mistake, you get into the groove a little bit differently than you did the last lap, and you could easily get into that high side wall. So I think a lot of those trucks are just sort of teasing it out at the moment. I think Gramuglia is now gone down to the bottom, and here comes Lawrence on the inside of Plymesser running that low line. So it's really interesting how this track's sort of forming up at the moment. Lawrence looks like he's sort of the one that sort of put himself into that position, and he's getting it done, and he's got that one done on the 81 of Plymesser out of 4.
And that's a couple spots we've seen that number 8 of Doyle Lawrence move up, and Doyle's one of those drivers, no offense to Doyle, but he's usually not someone we see driving his way through the field. He normally, he constantly runs in the top 10. He's consistently running in the top 10, don't get me wrong, but he's not someone that'll go from the back of the pack to the front of the pack as a hard charger. He doesn't quite have that pace. So to see him pick up 2 spots in very quick succession like that tells me that he's found something on that low line of the racetrack.
Yeah, he's definitely found something, and he's driven tremendous all season in terms of consistency, and that's what he did to put himself in that contention for the chase. Just missed out after the dirty dozen to get into this killer 8, but at the moment he's doing a good job, and he's running identical pace to the guys in front of him on this low line, if not a little bit quicker than some of them. So he's definitely found something out there that may be able to work on that low line, and the high side guys look like they may just be struggling a little bit. I think Stewart, did he have an issue just then? He did. So Stewart just got the fence on the high side, because he just lost a ton of speed. He went into the 32-second bracket last time around. Sizlove, I think, just got the position done on Gramuglia behind him. He has. So, yeah, I really think that this track is just changing up enough that it could make for a little bit of an interesting race in these later stages of this stint.
Currently watching to see what happened to that 73, and yeah, you see that, just 2, 3, and 4. He just got himself a bit of a Kansas stripe there, Jake, kind of not a hard hit, and he hit that wall flush, so that truck should be okay, but still, definitely not something you want to have happen to you when you're having a good, strong run. Granted, he's already in that those final 4 going into Fontana, but still, an uncharacteristic mistake from that 73 of Bobby Stewart.
I think Marlowe did the same thing as well, coming off of turn 2. So Marlowe again just scraping the fence. So I think a couple of trucks now who are running that high line starting to pay the price and are going to get that Kansas stripe, as we're going to call it for today. But Lawrence has been closing in on these guys in front of him. He's already on the back of Muglia and Campbell. He's been running fast the past couple of times, so he should be able to get this one done. He's going to go high. I don't think he wants to go that way. I think he wants to go that bottom. So he's going to see if he can get the nose down there on the 13. 13's going to block that line. The 5's up there on the high side. So this is where Lawrence needs to really figure out what he's going to do. Does he have a truck to pass on the high side now that he's actually fighting a truck that's running his sort of a line? So he's going to have to see what he can do out there. Campbell running that super high line up near the wall. And as well, just an update, Brent Keith it looks like he is out of the race at the moment in that 32 truck. He is one of the chase contenders, so that's 2. I'd say 3 at the moment, with Tory with a lot of damage, 21 laps behind, that are sort of on the outside looking in. So Sizlove, I think, is the only one that can really mess up Britt and Campbell's party.
I have to say, Jake, I think right now if you're the 13 of Gramuglia or the 8 of Lawrence, you see both you and the truck either in front or behind you, depending on whose perspective you're looking. You're both running the same part of the racetrack. I think regardless of what happens, you don't really want to fight that person very hard. I think specifically if you're Dole Lawrence, you're reeling in that truck in front of Ryan Campbell just a little bit. As they say, that 5 stretches the gap on him just a hair. And he's running a different line from you. If you guys just work together, you should be able to get that truck put behind you because of the fact that you're running a different line. And, then you can really start to fight amongst yourself. Note Glenn Jameson, kind of passing a report on in the comments saying Evolution Motorsports didn't catch a break tonight. Has to thank IFX and Brad Patterson for supporting the series and the team as always. And, he even just said, tough night tonight. And really, I think, that's really what it's been. This has been a very competitive night. This track has been very, very quick, very, very hard to drive and race.
Yeah, and you got to think, Tabor, all 3 of the Evolution Motorsport trucks got involved in that incident with James Torrey coming off of 3 and 4. I think every single one of them got a piece of that damage while that truck was in the middle of the racetrack. So definitely not the night for Evolution Motorsports, but good to see that hopefully they can come back next week and fight hard in that championship race, which I think is just going to be crazy. But yeah, this racetrack has definitely brought just a different type of racing that we haven't seen most of this season, and at the moment it looks like Townsend's trying to make the most of it. 3.2 second lead out in front of Tim Marlowe, who was running a little bit further back, 7.5 seconds away from the lead.
I'm going to interrupt you. The 44, yeah, that's what I was just going to say. The 73 dropped to the inside. That 44 goes to the high line and moved that 44 Sizlove into that 4th spot.
And that's a position that Sizlove needs. You got to think he needs to try and gap Campbell and Brett. At the moment, Brett's running P2 and Campbell is only running in P number 6, so he's not got the amount of points that he want to try and get into that chase on points at the moment. That's what it's looking like with Townsend down in front. So Sizlove needs to do everything he can to try and get as many points and hope that something may happen to the other 2, or just try and get that win. I think that's his best bet at the moment. Go for that win.
I think you're absolutely right. You have to get a win. You have to really push for it, and Townsend is doing exactly what he needs to do to really push for that victory. But then again, last time, in terms of every time we've seen Townsend recently get into this sort of dominating performance that we expected to see, especially through the first half of the season, think of Phoenix. Think of, that was one of the first chase, actually, I think it was the first chase round. Think of Phoenix where he ran out front all race long. I think it happened at Atlanta as well. Dominating, technical issue. Is that going to hit Townsend again?
I don't know. I hope not. For Townsend's sake, he really needs to. As I look back, Gramuglia is under a lot of pressure. I think he got a little bit caught up with the 2 of Tory. Doyle Lawrence is going to the high side, not going to get it done. William Tony as well behind them in that 87 truck. So they're going to have a good old fight there. I think Tony got a little bit loose through the middle of 1 and 2 there, saved the truck. It's going to hold on. As actually, as I say, Lawrence now gets into the outside fence off of turn 2, so a little bit damage to that right side, just pancaked it a little bit on that 8 truck. But yeah, you hope it doesn't happen to Townsend. He's been pretty good so far, I'd say, in terms of issues. He looks like he's been alright. And I think he fixed it. So hopefully it's all fixed there for Townsend, and because if it is, he'll be on for another solid victory tonight. He's pulling out to a 5, and we've got a caution, as there's a lot of trucks. I think the 87 and the 8 around. What happened there? We just looked at them, and then something happened. I think coming into turn 1. Oh, they got together into turn 1. That's an interesting one. I think they were both trying to go for the high side. I think the 8 thought he was clear. The 87 was still there, and into the fence they went.
Trying to get that replay up on your screens now as we're watching the 87 of William Toney. And here, we're watching it here. They're going into number 3 and 4. Let's ride on board, actually, with that number 87 machine. As they come off now of corner number 4 down your front straightaway. Toney looking to the high line. And just going into 1, he just hooked the 8. I think that, to me, it's hard to really put blame on any one person there, Jake. It looked like the 8 came up about a half a foot, and the 87 went down about half a foot. They both just, the 8 was trying to get a little bit more room on the racetrack to try to get his corner entry, and the William Toney in the 87 was going through corner entry. So, really hard to put blame, I think, on any one party there for that one, as pit stops are starting under yellow flag.
Yeah, definitely not anyone's fault there, you'd think. It was just they both met in the middle. They both wanted that high line, I'd say. They were both running their lines respectively, and they just caught themselves in the middle. So the 87 and the 8, a lot of damage on both of those trucks. I think the 8 got the worst of it as well. So a lot of trucks coming down pit road, the whole entire field, after that little run that we had there. Now up on lap number 68. And Townsend had a good jump on the rest of the field in the pit, so he should come out quite comfortably out in front, because I think the rest of them got held up from the 8 of Doyle Lawrence, who had that troubles coming down pit road. So the rest of the field will come off Britt, P2, Marlowe 3rd. It looks like Sizelove's going to keep his 4th spot ahead of Ryan Campbell in 5th, but definitely winding down the trucks here today. Only 9 trucks on the lead lap. It's an interesting one that we've had a lot more issues here today than we have for most of the season.
Yeah, I think you're right. As right now, everyone getting themselves back out there on the racetrack and starting to try to reel in that pace car. It was currently leading to James Torrey, and is Torrey, how close is he towards getting his lap back? How many laps down is that 2 machine?
21. He's 21
so
laps
never
down.
mind. Sorry, James. I tried to make you a factor, but the wreck just isn't gonna make it possible.
Yeah, he's got a
I
long
blame
way to go
Jake.
to try and get that back. Yeah, we'll just blame me for tonight. It's going to be one of those ones.
I think while we're under caution, Jake, we need to introduce the oval racing guys to this roof, because they likely haven't seen the roof very much until very recently. So let's get a look on board. We'll go on the roll bar, and yes, this is what the roof has looked like in the interior, even for the guys that raced it. So that's what the inside of that roof will look like, both the C-Spec and the track version. And did you ever drive this car, Jake? What'd you think of it?
Actually, yeah, I drove the track spec the other day, and I wasn't fond of it when it first came out, but when I drove it again, it's a good little piece of kit. It's not a bad car to drive, especially the track version. I'd like to drive the C-Spec a bit more, but haven't had the chance to. But it's definitely a good good car to drive, and definitely one that you may not find it so inviting to jump in straight away, but once you get into it and you start to figure out its little niche and how it drives, it's a really fun car to have fun in.
I will say, just listening to that new pace car, I'm pretty sure that guy just has it, like, the limiter set to, like, 9,000 RPM, because that car sounds like it's pulling a ton of revs. And here's what it looked like for those who are unaware. This is what it looked like from your cockpit cam. Wasn't the greatest in the world in terms of a car to drive cockpit-wise, but that car was a lot of fun. I have a lot of good memories driving both the track version and your Block Pond-related series, as well as the C-Spec and some endurance 24-hour racing formats. Spa 24 coming away with a podium. That was the original iRacing 24-hour race, so ha 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 ha. But lights are out on that roof. Sometimes I wish the car had blinky lights on the top to prevent HPDs from not seeing us, but that's a whole matter in its own right. 83, though, Travis Townsend getting ready to take us back green. And do you think that 4 is going to have anything for him, Jake?
To be honest, after seeing these past couple of runs, I don't think he does at the moment. He needs to make an adjustment to that truck to maybe get it to work on a bit of a longer run. his shorter runs are pretty good, but the longer runs just aren't there at the moment for that 4, and if he can maybe get something to work, we'll see what happens there. But going back to that rough story, we may not have any more roughs in any games, just FYI, if anyone has heard the local news going around, which could be amazing for us here at iRacing.
What so Jake is saying is that we might have Porsches.
I was trying to beat around the bush, but we got there. I didn't want to say it exactly, but yes, that could be an interesting prospect. We may get some Porsches, so it'll be interesting to see how iRacing tackle that. It'll be good to see in here, and it would be awesome to have that. Maybe have that in the rough. That'll be pretty cool to see. But here we go. That 83 truck right out in front. We'll see when he's going to go. He's holding back, and now he goes. Green flag away. He tried to give his teammate as best of a restart as he could, and he's going to try and do everything he can. That 28 and Tim Marlowe looking to the inside of Britt.
Look at the big jump by the 83 as they go into 1. He's 6, 7, 8 truck lengths already out in front. Tim Marlowe's already clear of that 4, who's dropped down to 3rd, and I believe that's the 5 of Ryan Campbell coming up to assault the back of Chris J. Britt. That 4 machine did not get the jump he needed.
Yeah, not the jump that the 4 needed on that high side. He's going to have to stick into P number 3 behind him. Campbell and Sizlove as well, floating around there in 4th and 5th position, and behind them I think that's Stewart going down to the inside of Plymesser, so he's going to try and see what he can do on that low side. Is he going to get it done? He is. So move there, and now Britt looking to the high side, but now Marlowe can sort of run a screen for his teammate out in front, and I don't know whether he needs to do that because already Townsend has pulled out a half a second gap.
Yeah, Townsend is flying right now, and that 4 machine is trying to fight back against that 28 machine. Kind of looked to the high line of the entry to 3 and 4, but he really cut off that exit coming off of corner number 4 and looked down to the inside on the apron, down well below the white line, and they come across the stripe. That I believe is going to give the 4 just a nose as they come across the stripe, and going to have more than a nose as they go into 1 and 2. Move that 4 machine back up into the 2nd spot.
Yeah, good strong move from that 4 of Chris J. Britt. He needed to get that done if he wanted to try and have anything for that 83 out in front, so he's going to try and reel him in. Yeah, he's already pulled out about that half a second gap, so he's going to have to try everything he can to get as much out of that 4 truck and get it done. Marlowe's now sitting behind them. Sizlove has got Gramuglia behind him, who is working the inside of Ryan Campbell on that high side, so Gramuglia has got his piece back in that 13 truck. He's working his way up through the field. He's going to move himself into B number 5, and can he get the job done on Sizlove? He can't. Sizlove runs that low line with him as well.
Well, he's definitely going to push to try to get around that 44 of Sizlove, but Jason's another one of those chase contenders that really needs to finish well here, and you know, it's going to be interesting to see, is he going to be able to do it? Is he not going to be able to do it? The 13, though, is trying to get to that 44. He's pushing really hard, and I have to say, I'm really happy to see Frank having a good, strong run like this. Inside, going into corner number 1 is where the 13 looks not quite able to get there just yet.
Yeah, it's good to see, and like we mentioned at the start of the race, it's good to see these guys, especially for momentum for next season, and to see some of these guys actually getting more momentum heading into next season. I think it's going to make it really interesting when we start that next season, and who knows, who will Townsend still be the one to beat, and who knows after this next couple of weeks whether he can get it done. And at the moment, Gramuglia is still sitting in there behind that 44 of Jason Sizlove. Behind them, Campbell and Bobby Stewart sort of dropped a little bit away. He's still running in P7 at the moment, but he's just floating around there out of the back. And Gramuglia has a look going down the back straight away on the 44. Not close enough to get a nose down on the inside, coming in 3 and 4.
Good hard fight happening here, and let's kind of talk about this chase situation, Jake, because we keep mentioning the chase, you know, routinely, but you know, in terms of, we haven't really talked about the situation itself. You have Townsend and Bobby Stewart both in your frenzied 4, which is going to be the finale at Fontana. 6 people who are on the outside looking in are Ryan Campbell, Chris Britt, James Torrey, Jason Sizlove, Doug Lemons, and Brent Keith. Coming into this race, Ryan Campbell and Chris Britt were the 2 people that were by points in the frenzied 4, and right now Campbell and Britt are running very, very strong. James Torrey has basically wrecked and is 21 laps down. He's essentially out of it. Doug Lemons and Brent Keith, neither of them took the green flag. They're both out of it, so it's just between Campbell, Britt, and Sizlove of who's going to fill those 2 spots going into your frenzied 4 at Fontana. Sizlove coming into this race was 23 points behind Campbell and Britt. And how did Sizlove qualify, actually? That I don't remember.
Sizlove qualified in P7, then Britt was P8, and Ryan Campbell was P10. So he only gained 3 or 4 points on the guy, or 1 point.
But he did gain
3 points on Campbell. He gained wasn't enough. You got to take that. So that would have put him, what, 3 points. So he'd only be 20 points out. He needs to get 20 more points than everyone else in terms of Britt and Campbell. It's a big ask. I still think he needs to win the race to actually get that spot.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think that's where he really needs to push. Or those machines of Ryan Campbell and Chris Britt need to have some sort of issue. And I will say I'm a little surprised that, and actually, now that I think about that, those glove box is guaranteed 2 people into that chase now, and that 28 just got into the wall of Marlowe. We saw it live, so I'm not going to go to a replay, and he's already back rolling. I think he just kissed that wall. Glove box, I mean, with Tori essentially getting into that issue, that confirms them 2 spots going into the chase, so well done to them.
Yeah, definitely confirms the 2 spots. Who it will be, Britt and Campbell are certainly looking 90% likely to be the ones in that chase, but Size Love can still spoil the party, and the thing that we look back, if it goes on points, is that how many trucks are already out of this race when you think, if they drop down, if, say, Size Love finishes 2nd, and then Britt and Campbell finish 8th and 9th, it's the lowest they can finish, because the rest of the field on the outside of the top 10 are all damaged trucks 13 or more laps down. So they're definitely not in the position at the moment to get it on points. So Size Up definitely needs to win this race to try and get one of those spots, and then it will come down to Britt and Campbell, which could be very interesting at the end of the day. But at the moment, the field's pretty much spread out. Like you said, Marlowe hit the fence. He's running in P3 just behind Chris J. Britt in that 4 truck. So the rest of the field, though, pretty much spread out. I think the closest battle we've got is really those 2 out in 2nd and 3rd, and then Stewart and Campbell for 6 and 7.
Yeah, there's not really a close fight out there on the racetrack right now. You have Marlowe slowly reeling in the 4 of Chris J. Britt, but still, that's a relatively large gap, and Travis Townsend has done a good job to stretch a 1-second gap over that 4 of Chris Britt as well. Let's ride on board a little bit with this 28 machine of Tim Marlowe as he tries to reel in that 4 and see how he's able to do it. Going to corners number 3 and 4, high line entry, and you see that 28 runs essentially the same exact line to that 4 machine out in front is running, and look at the run that 28 gets through the middle of the corner. That truck seems a lot more hooked up than the 4 machine out in front. He gained, I think, about half a truck length just through the middle, the center of the corner there, Jake. Oh, but that's the wall, and that's definitely not a good way to keep up your momentum and definitely not maintain speed. Hopefully that 28 machine is still running strong, but that's the 3rd time I think we've seen that 28 in the wall, Jake, and it may have been more than that. He needs to be careful with that, because every time he does that, it's not only time he gives up, but that could see him just out of the race.
Yeah, he's hit that wall a couple of times this season, let alone tonight. So he's hit that about 3 times tonight, 3 or 4 times tonight. But at the moment, it is hurting him a little bit. It's just on entry, it looks like, that's really struggling for that 28 truck. Everywhere else, it looks pretty strong. It's just the entry. So if he can sort of make sure he gets that right every time, he'll be right. But it's just that entry that struggles, and he kisses the fence through the middle of the corner. So a little bit more damage to that right side of the 28. But I think a lot of trucks have their right side pancaked after running so high. And Campbell and Stewart a little bit closer now, right in the 6th and 7th position, sorry. They're running that high side. I think Stewart is going to get the run as Campbell sort of lifts out and lets Stewart spy on that low side. He does. So Stewart is going to move himself up into P6 and sort of last the battle there, guys.
Yeah, I mean, the battles are a little just sort of, I won't say they're calm or that it's boring, but then again, we've seen this in this series a few times already, Jake. This is sort of that calm before the storm period where a lot of these, you have maybe some different strategies, maybe some different mindsets in terms of how people are driving the trucks. You could have Townsend out there just absolutely going as hard as he can. Maybe Chris is taking it a little bit easier, and you could maybe see in about 20, 30 laps time, if we stay green, that the people will come into different phases of this race. It is important to note, though, that I believe we still are owed a pit stop from everyone, and as I say that, I believe, no, never mind, I take that back. Chris J. Britt was able to bring it back in, but this is sort of that kind of everyone just gets stretched out and wait and see what happens phase of that race. Yeah,
this is sort of that middle phase that's a little bit later in the race phase, as we could say, because of the caution sort of spread that out a little bit. So one more pit stop from everyone we're expecting. They're just coming up to finish lap 88 and start lap 89. So Townsend right now out in front has pretty much led majority of this race, except for the first couple of laps when he wasn't out in front because he didn't start on pole. Chris J. Britt in P2, Tim Marlowe in 3rd, a good couple of seconds gap between each of those guys, as well as Sizlove now running in that 4th position, another 1.5 seconds back to Frank Muglia in that 13, another couple of seconds back, and that's the gaps at the moment. They're all about a couple of seconds back. Stewart and Campbell still somewhat close. Primus is still running out there in the 8th spot, as well as Doc Stout, who is the last truck on the lead lap. So Townsend right now has sort of got a comfortable gap, and if he can sort of keep this up, and he has been, he's been pulling a couple of tenths each lap, and I think he just pulled another 3 tenths on Couché Britt. He definitely looks strong, and really, like you said earlier on, Randy, that little bit of momentum heading into next week.
And you know, I really, you know, we talked about it earlier, and I still think that that's going to be a hugely important thing for all of these drivers, not just for Travis Townsend, but if you're Chris Britt, if you're, you know, Jason Sizlove, if he manages to get through, Bobby Stewart, Ryan Campbell, you know, whoever the 4 are going to be, carrying momentum through into that next round is going to be big. Travis Townsend is doing a great job to hold on to it now. And, you know, it's just going to take something. It's going to take a little bit of something to be able to really maintain it. And just that little, you know, you could put the argument that the reason some of our quicker drivers, you know, maybe you think Sizlove, maybe you think Stewart, even Campbell or Britt, they may have just approached this race and, you know, maybe they've spent a little bit more time prepping for their next race as opposed to this race for Fontana for that championship round, whereas everyone else maybe, you know, prepped Kansas a little bit harder. I'm still surprised that 83 has been as dominant as he is, Jake, because I really would have expected that if you're Travis Townsend, 99% of your testing time, I would think, would go to Fontana, because essentially after Watkins Glen, then those 2 races, you know, this week at Kansas and then last week as well at Dega, essentially don't matter.
Yeah, pretty much, and as we see Campbell going around the high side of Stewart, so Stewart's not giving that spot back to Campbell. Doesn't look like he's got anything for him, and Marlowe's doing the same with Sizlove, so I think Marlowe may have caught the fence again, and he's going to let Sizlove through for that 3rd spot. But yeah, back to your point, it's interesting that you bring that up, because some of those trucks may have actually worked a little bit harder here, especially All Fight Sim Racing. In terms of Gramuglia and Marlowe and all them, they're sort of out, and the only one that's in is Townsend, who, as we know, Townsend is Townsend. He's been winning and dominating when he can, and later parts in this season, we've seen Glovebox and everyone else sort of really close that gap to them in terms of outright pace. And for that not to be showing as much as it should be tonight, it's really that interesting one, is everyone sort of really focusing on next week. And there's extra weeks, like you said, with Stewart and Townsend, they had those couple of extra weeks to maybe work on that truck for next week. And I don't know whether it is that is what's showing tonight. It could be just that Old Fight Sim Racing have a bulletproof truck at the moment. But yeah, it's definitely in that phase of where Glovebox were really starting to close in and starting to be that dominating factor compared to Townsend and Marlowe as they were in the start of the season. But I don't know, it seems like it's really shifted tonight compared to what it has been the past couple of weeks.
Talking about people prepping for Fontana, I'm going to ask you a bit of a question. Do you think people prepping for Fontana is the reason that never... And actually, before I say that, caution out there on the racetrack, who that... I heard a contact somewhere. Who was it?
I say Marlowe get the fence, but...
Well, Doyle Lawrence just DC'd. Which I'm not on the iRacing channel. Let's see. Doyle got into the wall.
Alright, so yeah, Doyle got into the fence going through 1 and 2. It got tied on him, clipped the outside wall, and then it drifted across the track.
And brought out a yellow.
I would not have thought that would have brought out the yellow, because
I honestly wouldn't have either. And I'm not gonna say anything bad about Doyle. One, because I don't want to get penalized as I clicked the wrong button, and as we're still looking at the highlight. But no, I honestly think that that's just because I can't see any other incident out there on the racetrack. I think Doyle thought that he wouldn't bring a yellow out down there, and in fairness, compared to a lot of the other races we've seen, Jake, where we've had big incidents that don't bring out a yellow, the fact that brought out a yellow is kind of troll. To put it in professional commentator speak, that was pretty troll.
Yeah, that was a weird one. But we got another caution, and I think this is going to be the last round of pit stops, which makes it about a 45-odd lap run to the end.
Well, it's lap 97. There's that Australian math showing again.
Let me do the counting here. I just thought we're going to lap 143 here, but
let's see how many kangaroo pouches do we have left to go to the finish of this one.
I don't know. So we're just gonna give it up on that one. So Townsend comes out off pit road in first with Britt. Did Britt get a penalty? Because he is. Yes, he did. So Chris J. Britt has got a speeding penalty off the pit road. That was not what he wanted to do, especially in terms of championship chase contention, because that has put Size Love
in second. Yeah, that's actually really big for Chris Britt. And the thing is that Chris Britt was the person on the bubble. He was the first person in. Campbell has those 4 extra points that he could have, if the roles were reversed, he'd be able to, maybe hemorrhage. However, Jason Sizelove, 23 points away from Chris J. Britt, out-qualified Chris J. Britt, and currently runs second. And, Glove Box has been strong. Has Sizelove won a race all season? I don't think he has he?
No, he hasn't. Sizelove hasn't won a race all season long, so he's just sort of been that one that got in on points, sort of ran.
If you're Sizelove, do you wreck Townsend?
Well, don't know
to
whether
get
you
the
wreck
win,
him, but you race him hard. The thing is, right now though, is there's still a long way to go. There's 35 laps to go, as I get my maths correct this time.
Why does it have to be plural? Why can't it just? Why do they have to be multiple math? Why can't it be a single maths?
I'm just going to continue with what I was saying. That Sizelove, he needs to race Townsend hard. You got to think that he needs to get into this championship easier than the other guys by getting that win. If he does that, he's in. The hardest thing is Townsend's truck has been so fast that no one has really been able to keep up with him in terms of outright pace. And that's the thing. Britt was able to keep up with him, I think, the only truck for a short run. And then as soon as that middle phase, as we always say with Townsend, that middle phase comes along and off he goes. So I think Sizelove really needs to try and get a good jump on the 83 on this restart of Townsend, try and pull out in front of him, and then go from there.
So caution flies out here is 35 laps to go, getting ready to come to 34 when they come across the stripe. Lights are still on the pace car, and let's see, will those lights go off as they come across the stripe this time? Waiting. Yes, they do. So they're going to get stacked up, and we're going to go green with 34 laps to go. Jake, why have I started leading this broadcast? You're supposed to. I'm the one who has the ability to do stuff like this.
I don't know why you took over the lead of the broadcast. I think you're so used to that.
I think you just whined out of it, and we're like, Randy can do it.
we'll just take a break from Jake.
I'm so happy Hugo isn't here. I can just hate on you.
Yeah, it's the usual thing that happens every week. That you guys don't see every week. But
we straight up bullied Jake, I'm not gonna lie.
We got Townsend.
I shoved his head in a toilet once.
Run with Sizelove on the outside of row 1. Campbell with Stewart on row 2. Gramuglia and Plymesser on row number 3. Doc Stout and Tim Marlowe with Chris J. Britt rounding out the field with Wilson and Tory, the 2 trucks out there. Multiple laps down. Wilson 19 laps down. Tory 23 laps down. And we'll wait for that iRacing pace car, the brand new roof, C-spec, track spec, whichever spec, pace car spec. That's what
it's a rough RT12R because it's not in a racing spec. Pace car's in.
We'll give it a spec at the moment, and the green flag is away, and Townsend has jumped the field, and that's not what Sizelove needed, and Sizelove needs to try and pull that gap back, but Campbell is not going to give it up without a fire on the inside.
Campbell doing what he needs to do to try to get that second position away from his teammate in the 44, and that's exactly what he's going to do. Frank Gramuglia goes to the inside of the 44 as well. Jason Sizelove had a very good opportunity to run strong here. Jake sort of threw it away, gets shuffled back to fourth immediately.
Yeah, didn't have the best run on that high side, and that's what happens sometimes. He didn't get the jump on Townsend on the low line, and that's what's happened. He's dropped his way back, and having a look back, Chris J. Britt really aggressive back in the pack compared to Tim Marlowe, I think, on that high side. I don't think Marlowe was expecting him nearly to make it 3 wide there, but Britt needs to try and work his way around these guys. He's going to get the outside line around Doc Stout. He's going to get that one done, so there's another position for that 4 truck, but he needs to try and close in on these guys out in front, and Gramuglia, again, is starting to show that pace that he had early on. He's already all over the back of the 5.
Yeah, those Old Fords trucks have had a fantastic package here at Kansas as Frank Gramuglia works on the 5 of Ryan Campbell, which is quite literally the first time we've uttered that sentence all season long. The 13 on the inside going into one of that 5 machine, and he's going to pull closer and closer still, but not quite able to get it done. That was very, very tight. And the 44, Jason Seidlove, continues to fall back in that 4th position. 73 of Bobby Stewart starting to reel him in as they go into 3.
Yeah, it looked very tight coming off the corner. They were both sort of doing the same thing that happened between Tony and Lawrence, sort of fighting for that same bit of racetrack that they both wanted. And Gamiglia's got that nose on the inside of the 5 truck going down through the tri-oval. Not able, though, to get the run through the middle of 1 and 2 at the moment. Can he get the run off the corner? No, he can't. And Campbell's going to hold on to that position as Seidlove sort of gaps behind them. Bobby Stewart, and then Brett has already worked his way up into P6, already trying to close in on that top 5.
And well done there by Chris Brett to move himself back up here on this, just move his way up through this field very well, very efficiently, setting his sights now on that 73. I mean, he's only running 6th spot. He would have been at the tail end along his line, so already up 6 or 7 spots from where we went back to green flag racing, and inside of that 73 he goes through 1 and 2, and just it's not quite job done, but he's there.
Yeah, he's there, and that's what he needs to do. If you can keep your nose there, if you can get a good enough run on the low line, which he has done through 3 and 4, can he move that truck up in front? No, he can't. He thinks against it, and he's going to sit down and run all the way across the grass, going down through the front straightaway, and going to get the position done going into 1 and 2. So there's the 5th spot for Chris J. Britt, trying to fight back after that speeding penalty on pit road, and now Frank Gramuglia still working his way on the back of Brian Campbell, and he just can't get the run. It's sort of that position where he looks down on the inside like he is now through 3 and 4, but he just can't get the run off the corner, which is where the high side kicks in, and it's really putting him in a hard spot at the moment. And he still, can he get it done going through the tri-oval? Yes, he can. He's just going to have enough room to clear him. Well
done by the 13 of Frank Gramuglia, moving himself up into that 2nd spot, and I actually think this is the first time we've seen Old Fart Sim Racing running 1-2 in a while, and it's the first time we've seen Old Fart Sim Racing run 1-2 where Gramuglia is one of those 2 trucks. And as I say that, you have the 44, the 4, and the 5, 3rd, 4th, and 5th position out there on the racetrack. All of your chase contenders, or those 3 specifically are your chase contenders, trying to fight for those 2 final spots going into your final round at Fontana.
Yeah, and if you're Campbell and Britt at the moment, even though he's your teammate, you'd be thinking, good, keep Seidlove there in 3rd. It's sort of really that position where you want to make sure that either one of you get in, sort of thing. I know Campbell would want himself to get in, and Britt would want himself to get in. And knowing that Seidlove,
well, I think they're guaranteed. I think at least 2 of them are guaranteed in, regardless of what happened, just based on the fact that Tori's so far down. Keith didn't take the green, Lemons didn't take the green, and who else didn't take the green? That's it.
Yeah, Near didn't take the green either, but Near wasn't a chase contender. But the 44 of Seidlove's actually starting to challenge that 13 of Gramuglia on that high side. He's going to get the run through 1 and 2, and can he get that one done? I think he can, coming off the corner, and a good strong move from the 44 of Seidlove, losing up into P2. But he's got to try and close in nearly 2 seconds down to Townsend, which is a big ask.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, last time around, Townsend at 29.8. Everyone else in the race was in the 30s. As they come across the stripe now, a 29.9 for Townsend. And again, no one else drops into the 29s. So, I mean, it's not a full second. It's only a few hundredths, but that's still a considerable amount of time going to that 83 every single time around. I will say I want to see what that 4 and what that 44 do now that they have a bit of clear track and aren't fighting with that 13 for track position.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what pace Seidlove has now. That if he got that restart though, where would he be in compared to Townsend? He really didn't get a good restart, and now look at him. He's worked his way back up into P2, and if he got that clean restart, if he was able to try and challenge with Townsend, maybe he'd be there with Townsend right now. When you think of the pace though, 30.152 from Seidlove compared to a 30.010 from Townsend, so he's still a little bit off pace-wise, but who knows what he could have done to Townsend to try and shake that cage.
And Tim Marlowe in 6th place at 28 last time around, a 1.58. Everyone around him were in the 30.4s to the 30.5s, and even down almost near 31. So that number 6, or excuse me, that 28 of Tim Marlowe running in 6th, still looking very, very strong here as we reach the tail end of this race, coming up quickly on 20 laps to go.
Yeah, that Tim Marlowe as well, part of the Old Fart Sim Racing truck team. So you got to think that all those trucks that are a part of that stable have been super strong tonight.
He's actually getting around the 5 right now.
easy move on the 5, or is he going to get it done? I wouldn't say too easy, because Campbell's going to fight back on the high side, but he should be able to get him clear before they go into turn 1. He does, so another position for Marlowe. That moves him up into P5, just behind his teammate Gramuglia, who got the pole today early on, and Britt and Sizar, they're running around the same pace as Townsend, but you need to be running quicker than him to try and close that gap, and at the moment it doesn't look possible, especially when there's not many laps to go, in terms of no one will be coming down pit road again. It's pretty much just a race to the flag.
I told you he should have wrecked him.
Well, then you could have got a penalty, and then you may not have even been part of the chase. We do know that, so I think
true enough.
Just a poor restart, really. That's
yeah,
really
it was.
all that sort of cost Sizlove at the moment, was that poor restart. He may be there challenging with Townsend at the moment, but it's just one of those things that when it counts, you need to make sure it counts, and you put your best foot forward, because if you don't, that's what can happen. And that little mistake on that restart just didn't time it right, and couldn't get the jump, and he dropped the 4th straight away, and that was really all she wrote. And he had the pace, obviously, because he's got himself back up into P2 at the moment. He's sort of holding off Chris J. Britt, who has been pretty much the second truck to Townsend all night, who come from the back of the field on that restart. But yeah, you needed to make sure it counted then, and didn't. And that's what happens. That can be chase-defining stuff, and that's the stuff that you need to make sure that you nail when it comes down to these championship areas.
And we still need to keep an eye on where Ryan Campbell finishes here, because size of the course, I mean, he was 23 points behind Britt, 27 points behind Campbell, and where he runs, he certainly won't jump Britt, and I don't think he'll jump Campbell either. It's going to be very, very tight, Jake. I think we're going to see these three guys within about 10 points of one another if they're able to finish as they run.
I think it will be close. I think Britt will be pretty much a safe bet. And there's another caution on the racetrack. Which one is that? Big crash, and that's Campbell. Campbell around turn number 4 in the 5. The rear's got a lot of damage.
Replay coming up.
The front's got some damage. The 5 trucks around. Stewart got involved in it as well. What was that? They've come into 3 and 4. Campbell bumps the fence, gets loose coming off of the fence, and then Stewart gets into him. Nothing Stewart could do. They both just tapped the fence. Not hard hits for either of the racetracks, but definitely some now damage to Campbell, and that's going to drop into the end of the lead lap. So Campbell with some damage. It doesn't put him in a good position when Sizlove in second, but that's 10 points going the way of Sizlove. I don't think it's enough, but it's not over till it's over. Well, he only gained 3 points on Campbell, so at the moment he's only gained 13 points. No, less than that. It'd be less than that. It'd be... Yeah, so... Yeah. Yeah, so even at the end of the day, Sizlove needs to lead a lap, which I don't think may happen at the moment, but because that's 3 bonus points, got to remember that.
And my mic was muted again.
I think that Campbell, yeah, so he's about 14 points away from Campbell at the moment. It's close. I don't think he'll be able to get it, and that's just because of the amount of cars that's damaged.
I'm going to ask right now, if you're the 44, do you take 2 tires?
Yes. Why not?
Let's see if he does.
To lose?
Let us see.
The interesting thing, though, if he doesn't...
He let the 83 have a big... Sorry to interrupt, but he let that 83 have a big gap as they came on a pit road. Was there a lap truck in between them I didn't see, or...?
No lap truck. I think someone's pushing the limit and someone's not. When you think of it, the 83 doesn't really need to worry about speeding on pit road, and everyone takes 4 tires as we say that. So, yeah, I think the 83 just doesn't need to worry about it, and the 44 isn't going to beat the 4 off pit road, so that's going to put Britt in P2. That's going to put Sizlove down to 3rd, and maybe he can get a good jump on Britt now on that low line, being able to time it. Sitting right behind the 83 of Townsend, but it's not what he wanted when he wanted to run P2.
Yeah, that 44 coming out in 3rd is, I mean, that's great news for Ryan Campbell after that issue that just happened, because that's just going to make it that much more difficult for that 44 machine to really fight for this win here, considering he still has to fight with his teammate Britt as well. So, man, close racing going on here, Jake. A lot of things happening at once. And then actually the other thing we still need to see is Campbell back out there circulating? I suppose the other thing we have to talk about is that if Campbell gets repairs for too long, who could
He's
he?
leaving now.
Who can? Oh well, never mind.
Yeah, I was
talking
watching
point.
him the entire time, wondering when he was going to leave that pit lane. He left it pretty late, but he's trying to get as much of that truck repaired as possible. I'd say he may come down. There's still a little bit more damage on that truck than originally I thought. So he may be down on speed, but if he just finishes on the lead lap, he's going to finish 9th. And I think Sizlov, like we said, I think Sizlov needs to win now. I don't think there's enough points for him to make up. If there was the 18 trucks, or 16 trucks still out there racing, I think it'd be a different story. I think Campbell would then be at the back. You know what I mean? If no one else was a lap down, I think that would definitely be the case of this could be the chance for Sizlov to get into the chase. But at the moment, I think there's just not enough trucks to actually make the points up for Sizlov to be able to get it done.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But but at the same point, that 44 looked very, very quick, Jake. But then again, that 4 looked fast too. I don't think it's over yet in terms of, I don't think this is Townsend's race to win necessarily, or to lose necessarily, because the 44 and the 4 have the speed that they found his pace, and they now have the track position to do something with it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
And
to
the
see what they do
44
with
has a reason to push really hard. I still think that 44 might just be a favorite, just for the fact that he hasn't won a race all season long, even though he's been quick and been competitive, and he needs a win essentially to get himself into California next week. I think that 44 might just be your favorite, just for how much he might push. I think that 44. I think the 44 is in a situation where if there's half a lane open, he puts his nose there where other people wouldn't.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the case. I think the 44 is going to try and fight as hard as he can for this one. What he does, who knows? But we're coming down now on the back straightaway. This may be the final restart of the race. It'll be around about 13 to go when we get that green flag. The front row for this restart, Townsend, Britt with Sizlov and Marlowe behind you. I think Marlowe as well, that old fart sim racing truck on that high side. He'll be wanting to
and Frank behind him.
Yeah, and then Frank behind him. So those guys will really be trying to upset this little party that we got. And Damien Plymouth running in P5. A good strong run from that 81 truck, and he'll be wanting to get a win. He hasn't had a win all season. It's been a pretty down season for him in terms of results. So he'll be trying to get something out of this second to last round. And Townsend, he just wants another victory. He just wants to upset the party before he heads to Fontana, and off he goes already on the restart, and a good jump as well from Marlowe on row 2. He's already looking to the high side of Britt, so they timed that one to perfection because Marlowe is already around Sizlov on the inside.
28 of Marlowe up there on the high line doing what he needs to do to try to take away that third spot. Is he going to be able to do it, though, in that 28 machine? Sizlov able to fight back, and the 28 machine is going to stay in that 4th spot. 44 in the 4 machine hanging on to 3rd and 2nd.
Yeah, good run from the 4 as well. He's trying to close the gap to Townsend out in front. Can Britt get there? I don't think it's actually going to be enough at the moment. He needs to use the draft now to try and close up on the back of that 83 to try and possibly lock himself into that final round. So points won't matter. Points won't matter for him if he can get that one done. And Sizlov sort of dropping away at the moment. He's got Plymesser along with the Gramuglia and Doc Stout as well. Sort of picked up his pace recently, trying to see what he's got for these top 5 trucks at the moment. And Plymesser as well in that 81 truck. We haven't seen him for most of the season. He's sort of been that one that's been running around the back, and now he's having a strong run, and look what he can do. Let's see if he can make this move on the 44 going into 1. He's going to look to the low side of the Jason Sizlov in the chase. He's going to try and mess up this party. He's going to run side to side down through 1 and 2, and I think Gramuglia is going to have a look as well going down the back straight away.
The 44, I think, Jake probably made an adjustment in the pit lane that is not helping the speed of that truck, because he does not have the speed that he had before that yellow flag came out. I think Frank Gramuglia looking to the inside, following Damien Plymesser in the 81, but as we talk about this, the battle for the lead is still heating up as well. You have Chris J. Britt in the 4 all over the back of the 83 of Travis Townsend. I think Britt might be the faster truck, and indeed, the last several laps, that 4 machine has been the quickest truck out there on the racetrack.
Yeah, definitely closing in on that race. Leader is Chris J. Britt. He wants to get this one done. He wants to make sure he's a part of that final chase round, doesn't want to fall back on points. He just wants to make sure he's locked in and at the moment he's going the right way about it, closing in on Townsend. That behind, though, the battle is on for this third position. Plymesser running in front of Gamuglia, and they are not giving an inch, with Sizlove as well right behind them. They're running nose to tail, and that's the same as goes out in front, and Britt is still all over the back of Townsend. Can he do a move and get it down to the inside of the 83? He thought about it, but not able to get it done, but they're very close out in front.
Everything's just happening everywhere here, Jake. You have the battle for the win between the 83 and the 4, and the fight for 3rd, 4th, and 5th place is on as well. That 4 machine trying to cut that exit of corner number 2 off as tightly as he can and get the run. Looks to me like he has a nose on that 83 machine as they go down the back straightaway, and indeed he does. He's going to pull that up, and he pulls fully alongside into corners number 3 and 4. 6-7 laps to go here at the end of the race, and that 4 machine just not quite able to get clear of the 83. And the 83 is going to lead that one, but that 4 has the position, or he has the space rather. He's where he wants to be as it goes into 1.
Yeah, he's where he wants to be, and this is the first time we've seen Townsend actually have someone on his inside for most of this race. What can the 83 do to fight back? And that 4 is still alongside, still about half a truck width up the inside. Can he fight through 3 and 4? The 4 truck looks stronger in this part of the racetrack, but that 83 running the high side, keeping that momentum and speed up, coming across the stripe to complete lap 127, starting lap 128, 6 laps to go.
6 to go. They go into 1 and 2, and the 83 is strong in that high line. The 4 falls back a little bit low, and he's going to pull, make it single file. Note, in 3rd place, Damian Plymesser currently holds on to that 3rd spot, but the 13 and the 44 are still there fighting for it. You have the 44 of Sizlove and the 13th of Gramuglia side by side for 4th and 5th. The 81 just out in front of him, focusing back on the lead now, and that 4 has dropped off the back of the 83 just a little bit. Travis Townsend and that Old Ford sim racing machine slowly stretching that gap. Not by truck lengths, but I'd say by inches, and I think it's going to be just enough. You see that 83 starting to really come into its own, Jake, starting to really put a gap on Chris Britt in the 4.
Yeah, starting to pull away just a little bit at the moment. Got about a truck length over the 4 at the moment, and if he can keep that to that distance, he should be able to come away with another victory for Townsend. But behind this battle that is going on for 3rd spot at the moment is intense. It is to another level. Plymesser is just holding him off. He wants this 3rd spot at the moment, and Sizlove wants to get as many points as possible, knowing that there is a little bit of an issue with Campbell, and the 2 truck just came out of pit road. Is he going to get amongst this one? I hope he doesn't. Sizlove just clips the fence coming off of turn number 2, but he's all clear. He looks like he's going to be alright, but Gamuglia, they're going to make it 3 wide into turn 3. They get clear of that 2 truck quite quickly, but out in front it's still the same little gap that they got. But this battle, when Marlowe's now getting amongst it in that 28 for Old Tuck Sim Racing.
And they're going to go 3 wide just about as they go into 1. The 28's going to back out of it, and 13 on the inside of that 44 still, and the 44 is actually going to get himself clear as he comes off between corner number 1 and 2. 3 laps to go here at Kansas, and the 44 can finally just focus on the 81 of Damian Plymesser, who's had essentially come out of nowhere tonight to come away with a top 3. Battle for the lead is still hot, though. They come across the stripe 2 laps to go. 83 and the 4, 3 miles to decide it.
3 miles to decide it, but at the moment Townsend's got the upper edge. Can he hold on from Chris J. Britt, who wants to lock himself into the chase? P2 will lock himself in, I think, on points, but he wants to try and get that win to make sure of it. And at the moment, Damian Plymesser holding down P number 3. He's got the old fart sim racing truck of Tim Marlowe now behind him, who was working his way up in the past couple of laps. Sizlove has dropped his way down. He's obviously must have clipped the fence because he has lost all momentum, and that will surely lock in Ryan Campbell into the chase. So at the moment, the final lap, the white flag is out here at Kansas. This lead battle between Travis Townsend, Chris J. Britt, the gap's about 2 truck lengths at the moment. I think this could be Townsend. He's going to get some momentum heading into California as he enters turn number 3 in that number 83 Killer Prototyping and Design truck, the Chevrolet Silverado. He's going to cut him across the stripe in P1. Townsend adds another win to his season here at Kansas.
Great strong run there from Townsend, and Damian Plymesser comes away in 3rd with a huge amount of traffic across the stripe. 28 machine of Tim Marlowe was there. Frank Gramuglia wasn't far off as well, but Jason Sizlove, what happened to that 44 machine? He went from running 3rd, running 4th, to coming home in 8th. Let's see, we're going to go through the replays here, see if we have what happened.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think he may have caught the fence. He was running up along that wall for quite some time, and he must have just got it at the wrong point in time, and it hurt his speed. And I can't actually see anything. Maybe he used his tires up, or maybe unless he
might have just cranked those tire pressures, and it could be that he could have put too much tape, was worried about overheating, and could have also just simply cranked those tire pressures, and the race just went 1 or 2 laps too long for those pressures. And I don't know, definitely unfortunate for him though. But regardless, that 83 of Travis Townsend, he's going to start burning them down. And Jake, why don't you take us through our finishing order?
Yeah, we'll run through our results here from the second to last round here at Kansas, and Travis Townsend taking a well-deserved victory with Chris J. Britt in P2. Damien Plymesser coming home with a podium, well-deserved there in P number 3. Tim Marlowe and Frank Gamuglia rounding out the top 5. Bobby Stewart coming home in P6. We'll see him fighting for that championship next week at Fontana. Doc Stout, Jason Sizer just not had that final run that he wanted, finishing in P8 with Ryan Campbell, who most likely will be joining Bobby Stewart and Travis Townsend and Chris J. Britt in that final 4. Burt Wilson, James Torrey finishing multiple laps down in 10th, 11th. William Toney, Doyle Lawrence as well in 13th. Brent Keith 14th. Glenn Jameson in 15th, with Brad Patterson rounding out the 16 starters. Doug Lemons and Brad Neer did not make the start, and that would take an end to Doug Lemons' championship contentions. So we'll go to an ad break here on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Line before we come back for the post-race show here at Kansas Speedway. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to post-race coverage here from Kansas Speedway for the Raven Grafixx Contender Series. We just finished up our 200-mile race here at Kansas for our second to last round and our final round of the Killer 8 chase, and it sort of all went up in the air at the end, but it was Travis Townsend coming away with another dominant victory, and I think we'll be standing by. I will be standing by as Randy will continue to play the music with our first place finisher here in Victory Lane. As Randy, can you please turn the music down a little bit so I can have a word here with our race winner here, Travis Townsend. Well done on what was another dominating performance there, but you had a little bit of trouble there at the end with Chris J. Britt. He wanted to fight you hard for that one. Tell us about all that.
Yeah, absolutely. He made it interesting. I felt like all night he was probably a little better than I was in that, 5, 10, 15 lap run, and I hated seeing that last caution come out between that and the draft. I knew he was going to be tough to hold off, but with the way Kansas races, I knew he was going to get underneath of me, but if I could just hold that middle groove and didn't push up or anything like that, as long as he held it down on the bottom, I'd be fine.
Yeah, we were thinking the same thing, that Britt was definitely a little bit stronger on that shorter run than you, but your middle pace and middle to long run pace, we've said it all season, has been so dominating. I don't think we've ever seen a stronger truck all season in that phase, and what is it that you're able to pull out? I know you don't want to give away all your secrets, but is it the way you're driving that truck compared to like your rest of your teammates, or is it something that you have in the setup that just makes it that little bit stronger? Like, is there just something that you know that works with the truck?
You know, Jake, I really can't put my finger on it. You know, it seems like it doesn't matter what kind of track it is or anything. I think it may be a little bit of throttle control and just trying to do what I can to manage the tires to the best of my abilities. But I don't really have a good answer for that, to be honest with you.
Oh, well, that's alright. Keep all your secrets to yourself. But yeah, it's definitely one of those factors that if it ever goes mid to long run, we know that Travis Townsend is going to be at the front. But now that's your second victory in the Killer 8, sort of taking a win away from Chris J. Britt to lock himself in. But I think on points he'd be alright. But now you head to Fontana, the big race that definitely will be one that will be on your mind next week, when especially the most winningest driver in this series but not got that championship. How do you go for next week? Have you how's the truck feeling? Have you put in a lot of laps, and what are you expecting in terms of pace for next week?
Oh man, I'm very excited for next week. I've put in some different runs as far as trying to figure out strategies, when we could take 2 tires and 4 tires and fuel runs and that sort of thing, just so I've got everything covered for anything that could possibly be thrown at me next week. So I've been working on a couple different things, trying to get the balance right. It's going to depend on, of course, the weather, track temperature and that sort of thing. So trying to have a couple different sets I can go to depending on, how everything plays out once we get there next week.
Well, that'll be interesting to see how that all plays out next week. And in terms of teammates, obviously, a strong run from you guys all night as well. Just want to put that out there. I think it's the first time you guys have had a real strong run, and especially for Gamuglia. First time he's got a pole. I don't know whether it's his first pole, but to be running so strong with you guys as well out in front, I think it put us all at shock. And then Blindmeister as well. To come away with that P3 was a brilliant drive from all you guys, so well done as well for a team aspect to be able to put yourself in that position.
Yeah, absolutely. We ran great all the way from qualifying on. We kind of helped each other and came up with kind of a drafting deal for qualifying, put us all up front to start with, and we were all running similar sets, a couple different variations. But yeah, all around we were just talking in TeamSpeak about how this was definitely our best race, together as a team, for the complete team effort. So definitely happy with that. It's going to be great to kind of finish the season on that and going into California, making sure that we're clicking on all cylinders.
Yeah, it definitely gives that momentum for you guys next week that may have shifted towards Glovebox, but definitely shifted towards you guys tonight. And well done again, another tremendous victory in this series, Travis Townsend, and hopefully you can continue that next week at Fontana in that big race that you'll certainly be liking to get that championship monkey off your back. Anyone you'd like to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, my sponsor, Kilo Prototyping and Design. Also, Bobby Stewart, putting this league on no matter what happens next week. This is just such a phenomenal league. Everything that he does to make this happen, win, lose, or draw. I'm thrilled to be here and can't wait for next season as well. And also thank you to Innovative Fabworks, Raven Grafixx, and Doyle Lawrence for everything he does for the league, and Lone Star Rod and Custom.
Well, thank you, Travis, and hopefully we can speak to you next week. I'd say we'll most likely speak to all 4 chase contenders next week, but good luck next week, and hopefully you have a good little week of practice, and we'll see what you can bring next week to the table.
Okay, thanks, Jake. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, and that was Travis Townsend, our winner here today from Kansas. And Randy, hopefully you can do interviews with all your button pressing that you're going to be doing, and you'll hand it over to our 4 of Chris J. Britt.
Listen, Jake, this is hard, okay? Anyways, I am still stood by with the 4 of Chris J. Britt, and Chris, that was a pretty good run from you there. I think on that final caution, or one of those final cautions, we saw you get a speeding penalty, had to go to the back, but that didn't really seem to bother you. You got quickly through that, you drove through that field very quickly. As I just realized I don't have TeamSpeak notifications off, and I need to turn those off while you speak. So go ahead. How quick was that number 4 machine out there today?
It wasn't that bad. Myself, Brent, and Jason were, to a sense, Ryan were basically running the same setup. As I got a speeding penalty and I went up through the field, but really that last caution kind of saved me because I had to eighten the tires up, running down low, and then the caution came out. Unfortunately, the teammate spun, and was really trying to, as much as I could, to try to help Jason out getting a win there because he was the last one left, and also help Ryan also, but yeah, we went with a strategy call there that didn't really work out. I think he was caught up in traffic behind, and they were kind of racing him pretty hard, which is, it's part of racing. And I think it just wore off at the end. But, yeah, nice little battle at the end with Travis. But, feel bad for my teammates that missed the cut, but happy for Ryan that he was able to hold on.
Actually, asking about your teammates, talking about Brent and Doug Lemons, where were they? Why didn't they take the green flag today? Is there, hopefully everything's all right, but given the how close it is to the holidays, but everything okay with them, or what was the deal with Brent and Doug being MIA?
Doug had a personal issue, family emergency he had to take care of, and Brent took the green flag. I think he was caught up whenever Tori spun, and I think someone was sitting on the track, just sitting there from that, and he plowed him. Couldn't get checked up in time. It was kind of a bad spot. I wasn't able to look at the replay. You guys would have the replay on that, but he got bumped in qualifying.
Well, I don't have the replay from that one. I'm directing this race, and the buttons are hard. They're harder than Hugo makes them look.
Yeah, 10-4. He got caught up in the first accident. Pretty much sealed his fate, unfortunately, and kind of just took it easy from there. But he took the green flag for sure.
And now going into this final race of Fontana, Chris, what's your mindset entering? You have Townsend and you have Bobby, who have both been, Townsend was very strong through the entire first half of this championship, still been strong. Bobby's come on strong in the second half of this championship, I would argue. And, you're going to have your teammate of Ryan Campbell in there fighting with you as well. Do you think you and Ryan are going to have a bit of an advantage being teammates? Or do you think it's still going to be a good, hard fight between the four of you just based on the speed that Bobby and Travis have had and the speed that Ryan's had? And what's your take going into Fontana? What's your, let's say, predictions is the word I'll use. What do you think we're going to see next week in California?
Well, to be brutally honest, if me and Ryan are able to practice, a good deal of, of the time coming up, he's had some work, issues going on where he's, working long hours, and you got the holidays, and you have the family thing. If we're able to, put some good laps down, and because we pretty much like the same thing, so that'll help us out. We could do pretty good, but it's all going to come down to the teamwork and guys that actually want to work with you, and it's you're going to hold back a little bit, but at the same time, you can't really hold back too much, because you won't, just in case you have an incident, you want to make sure that your guys are good to go and are able to be, get out there and win. So hopefully we're able to do something.
Well, hopefully you guys can put on a good show indeed, and that's going to wrap it up for us, if I could speak, Chris. But before I let you go, any shout-outs, anyone you'd like to thank this evening?
Yeah, I want to thank Killer Prototyping and Design, Raven Grafixx, Innovative FabWorks, Bobby Stewart for putting on the race, you guys for announcing, my teammates obviously wouldn't be here without them. It's it's a lot of teamwork involved with it. So other than that, that's about it. All right, guys, I appreciate it.
User was moved to
Yeah, I'm
your
going to be
channel.
here with
User
Damien
was
playing.
moved
That's the
out of
first
your
time
channel.
we've spoken to Damien all season long, and well done, Damien, on a well-deserved third-place finish. You're on 12th in the grid, but it's one of those races that you can sort of be relieved about after what has been a struggle of a season.
Yeah, 10-4. It definitely has been a struggle all season. We, I gotta give a shout out to the guys over there with Old Fart Sim Racing and my teammates, Aaron and Sean with Twisted. I know I couldn't get where I am tonight without them, so big shout out to them guys.
Yeah, it definitely looks like you guys have sort of, or yourself has really bounced into this position in terms of pace. That how did the truck really drive tonight? Obviously, being the first chase contender in the field, was it one of those races where you just sort of went out and see what you could do and didn't really care about the chase contenders that much and just tried to mix it up a bit?
Yeah, being that it is, the last race before the end of the season here, with our race at California coming up, I figured, these guys will run, the way they're going to run, so I might as well go ahead and see what I can do. And we got tight over the run a little bit, and we had to pedal it just a little bit through 3 and 4, but everything else was pretty good otherwise.
Oh, that's good to hear. At least you had a solid truck for tonight. And heading into, obviously, the final race, obviously you're just going to run that one as is, but after what has been, I wouldn't say a strong season for yourself, how do you look for next season if you're going to return for next season? Do you plan on returning, and if you do you have any little things that you're going to try and make most of while you sort of already been through that this season? Anything you're going to change in terms of setups or how you're going to go about it?
I think the biggest thing for me is patience. I got to work on my patience a little bit. I like to overdrive the truck just a little too much, so that's been my problem most of the season. I had a good setup and just overdrove it.
Well, hopefully, if you can build on that for next season, we may see some more results like this in the future, especially with these long-distance races, 200 miles and those over 100-odd laps, especially the 200 miles around the short tracks. Definitely can overdrive them there and run out of tyre quite quickly, especially on the truck. But well done again on what has been a super strong performance for yourself tonight here to come away with a P3 to sort of finish out the season. Like you said, it hasn't been the best, but to come away with that third, it's really going to give you that little bit of momentum and boost of confidence heading into next season. Anyone you'd like to thank as well before we let you head off?
Yeah, I gotta give a shout out to Bobby Stewart for putting together the Contender series, Raven Grafixx over there with Doyle Lawrence, Tony Woodside over at Killer Prototyping and Design, Brad Patterson over at Innovative Fabworks, James Torrey with Lone Star Riding Custom, the boys over there at GBR, I Analyze Racing, and two other. I definitely got to give a shout out to Weir's Machine and Racing Products here in Bangor, Wisconsin, and of course my wife for all her patience this season. So.
Oh, well done. Big shout out to all the wives and families of all of us having to put us with our sim racing and everything that we do here. But well done, Damien, on a strong third place finish, and hopefully we can speak to you next week after that championship race, and hopefully we can see you more next season as the 2017 season starts.
Yeah, 10-4, that would definitely be nice.
Thank you, and that was Damien Plymesser, our third place finisher here tonight at Kansas Speedway in that number 81 truck. And Randy, I think you're going to round it out with our fifth place finisher. No Tim Marlowe here, but we definitely got Frank Muglia, pole sitter, and coming home in fifth place.
User was moved to
Yeah, I'm
your
stood
channel.
by with our fifth place finisher of Frank Gramuglia in that number 13. And Frank, what a run it was for you tonight. I mean, you didn't come away with the win, and obviously you had that win at Dega earlier in the season, but I have to say, this definitely seemed to me like it was the strongest night of racing for you all season long. Is that how you feel? Do you feel the same way, or how did it feel for you tonight? At least coming away with the pole. We're used to seeing old farts guys on the pole, but not you. So how would you summarize this night of racing for you?
Well, first off, got to thank all my teammates there and our associate teams, and that was the biggest reason I got the pole. We did a team qualifying, and I just happened to be in the right spot. Any one of us could have got that pole. But it was good. As for strongest of the year, yeah, I've had a good truck a number of times, but I've either got myself into trouble or caught some bad luck. So I'm very pleased with the way it went.
Channel switched.
It was
Channel switched.
Seemed like it fell into place for me. I'm real happy with a top 5.
Well, I definitely can't say that that my night's gone as smoothly as yours, considering I just changed channels in the middle of the interview. But overall, I think it's been a great season for you guys at Old Farts in general. Travis has been dominant. Tim has shown great pace all season long, and you've definitely come on stronger over the course of this championship. as the championship's gone on. Do you feel the same way? I mean, how do you feel? Do you feel like you've improved a good amount over the course of the season? You've gone from someone who finishes, somewhere around 10th, top 10-ish, to, consistently fighting for top fives. How do you feel you've improved as a driver?
Well, I think the biggest part of it is having good teammates to work with, and again, having things stack up in your favor through the race. There's times where you push too hard, or you don't push hard enough, or you get caught up in something. Said I made a lot of mistakes on my own early in the season that hurt my chances. I had a good truck, but just couldn't show it. So yeah, I think I've improved. I hope to have improved, and again, thanks to my teammates for helping me with that. Appreciate it.
And then let's get a little predictions from you as someone on the outside looking in of this Chase situation. You have Travis, you have Bobby, then you have Ryan, and you have Chris, all going for the championship at California next week. Now, obviously, you're going to be somewhat favored to Travis being one of his teammates. However, going in, who do you think is going to be really, really strong, and who do you think of those four might be the weaker of the options? What's your prediction for that championship at Fontana? I'm interested to get one of the competitors' views on how that might pan out at California.
Well, I predict one of them's going to win.
Oh, man. Jake, his insight's almost as good as yours.
Oh, wow.
Throw their names in a hat and pick one, because they're all good and they're all strong, and I think it's going to kind of go back to kind of where I've been all year. Whoever doesn't make a mistake, whoever is able to run the right strategy for pit stops, and whoever stays out of trouble, because I know they're all four going to bring their best game and their best set.
Well, congratulations to you tonight, Frank, on coming home with the pole and the strong 5th place finish. And like I said, one of the best nights of racing you've had all season long. So before I let you go, any shout-outs, anyone you'd like to thank?
Yeah, I'd like to first off thank all my teammates, and definitely give a shout out to my friend Cindy. Would like to thank our sponsors, Killer Prototype and Designs, Raven Graphics, Innovative Fabworks, Lone Star Rod and Custom, GBR, I Analyze Racing, obviously eSpeed and Bobby, and you guys, you do a fantastic job, so hats off to RaceSpot. Appreciate it.
Well, have a good rest of your night tonight, Frank, and hopefully you can have a good run at California, and hopefully carry along this momentum and this pace you found going into next season. I think it'll be you'll put on a good show. But have a good rest of your night, my friend.
You too. Thanks a lot, guys.
All right, see you, Frank. And before we start signing off, one more interview for the evening. We have the CEO and executive producer, director, whatever you want to call him, at RaceSpotTV, stood by with Mr. Jake Blackhall. Jake, what's Hugo up to?
I don't think Hugo's up to anything at the moment, because Hugo is just not going to talk to me at the moment.
Hugo, are you going to unmute your microphone? He just puts in text no. So I tried. I tried to make it all entertaining, and Hugo just said no. But first things, Jake, let's start to wrap. What a night of racing this was. Frank on the pole. You had phases of the race that were super exciting, phases of the race that were, almost boring, lack of a better term. This night kind of had it all.
This night really did have it all, and heading into next week as well, is that really going to be the precedence that we set for next week? It really was one of those races that it could have went anyway. A lot of retirements, which was an interesting one that I don't think we've seen as much of, with only a handful. I think it was 9 trucks, finishing on the lead lap. It really sort of mixed up that chase a little bit. The 4 trucks, I think we can sort of say it's going to be Townsend, Brett, Campbell, and Stewart. I don't think Sideslov only finishing 1 position ahead of Campbell. I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference points-wise. So they're going to be our 4 trucks next week. How interesting, how exciting!
Well, I mean, points-wise, they're all going to be on the same amount of points. They're all going to be
next week. Yeah, but after this one, after tonight, I don't think Sideslov is going to get the points.
Oh yeah, I mean, Campbell's 100% locked in.
Yeah. So it's Campbell, Brett, Stewart, and Townsend for next week. It's going to be a great race at California. Definitely hope to see everyone there, because that KPD Frenzied 4, it's going to go off.
Yeah, it's going to be a big race. And that is going to do it for us here tonight on RaceSpotTV, and, well, not on iRacing Live. My graphics have the iRacing Live graphic on it, even though Hugo is busy hogging their channel, What Would the Pro Race of Champions, or whatever was going on. It was something exciting, I'm sure, but not as exciting as that. Or as this, excuse me. But before we go, of course, shout outs to all our sponsors, to Raven Graphics, to KPD, to IFX, to eSpeed making this championship possible. Shout outs to Hugo for being dumb enough to let me run the cameras, and shout out to Jake for basically making me lead this broadcast after it's supposed to be his. But that's going to do it for us tonight here on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live. Me, Randy Chinworth, is always up in the booth with Jake Blackhall. Hope you guys have a good rest of your evening, and hope you guys see us next week for the championship finale of your Raven Graphics Contender Series. It's going to be a good one. Talk to you all later. Bye-bye.